So that kind of implies Jason too has a lot of depth to him and like hopes and dreams, and wanting to have a mediocre life is like kind of based and humble, right? So fucking. And he's also kidnapping people. What kind of person becomes adequate at like holding people at gunpoint and being like, "I'm fucking gonna fucking take you in, buddy."
100 free mock technical interviews. Go on my channel. Look at every video before the Pirate Software drama. Those are all free call-ins. Nobody's paid me $1 for that. I've had people email me saying, I did a technical interview with you for free in public on your stream, and now I work at Palantir. Or I got the job that I wanted. I built an entire website called getcracked.io that has 300 free interview problems for software engineers. I have
So
given back 5 times more, 10, 20 times more than this guy that sits on his computer.
what the fuck? This guy seems sick. As if this is real, maybe I should be looking into this. I socially engineered pirate software into advertising my services.
Edits YAML files, and his big shtick is telling people go make games. Pirate Software said you were a grifter for charging $350.
Wait, that's it? I thought this was gonna have some like loop where it would show what pirate software did. Let's check out Coding Jesus' channel for a little bit. I've been wanting to watch more of his stuff. Like he's just been cooking pirate software lately. Updown is unfinishable. 7-minute video. Hell yeah.
Because the next set of lines tell us everything we need to know about why Heartbound's code can no longer scale.
I think this is like the best way to get a look at Heartbound's code. Is that this Coding Jesus guy is like dredging up any time Pirate Software has showed it and like reviewing it for us. Season 2 got greenlit. I just read that. Sick. I'm sure the show gets super fucked. I bet it gets fucked because there's so much to play with on the whole concept of whether or not that clone having a real life is his own choice, or like how that's going to work out for him, or the options he even has and free will and blah blah blah. What was the Convergence or something was like the title of that episode 9? Not necessarily the show gets super fucking. I didn't look at episode 9. I just sort of listed the episode names. Question of, am I a branch of the original decision tree, or am I on the main path line? The ego behind there being a main path line is a funny one. It's just that, like, with our comfortable understanding of physics that stops us losing our minds, you just assume there's a main path line, right? There fucking better be a main path line. It's kind of comforting that life might be a circle.
What's up, guys? Coding Jesus here. Guys, I was working on my motorcycle, all peaceful, when I all of a sudden received a message on Discord. That message contained a file that included a diff between Heartbound's latest release and the release prior. Now, for my non-technical audience, what is a diff? A diff simply stands for difference. It's a comparison between the latest code and the code that existed before it. A diff usually shows
Does that mean he's going to have full code?
additions and subtractions from the previous version to the new version. Why do I bring this up? Well, one of Jason's most cited reasons as to why Heartbound has been in development for the past 10 years and has been progressing at a snail's pace is that he's bottlenecked on the dialogue.
When the primary bottleneck isn't code, it's actually writing.
It's not the framework, it's not the code, it is the writing.
The game's bottleneck isn't programming.
Relatable,
it's
bro.
writing.
In light of that claim and the recent diff that I've been sent, I want to spend the next 5 minutes analyzing just that. Now, don't get me wrong, writing is hard. There are plenty of prolific examples out there of authors who haven't produced a new piece of work.
The Reophisto writing was the hardest
But those
part.
authors aren't working on a 2D game. Neither are those same authors spending
And it was
11
still
hours a
shit.
day editing a configuration file and playing Minecraft on stream. They are writing and they are brainstorming. Now, if I didn't know Jason's character, the fact that he shifts goalposts, smears anyone who gives him an ounce of constructive criticism, and never takes accountability, I may have given him the benefit of the doubt here. But instead of just talking, let's actually take a look at the evidence so we can see what's really going on. Today's video sponsor is me. I built this platform called getcracked.io, which focuses on covering everything that is not lead code related to the technical interview for languages like Python, Rust, C++. That involves concepts like language knowledge, networking, operating systems, concurrency, computer architecture, etc. As you can see, we have over 600 problems that will really test and sharpen your skill set. Check it out. Because this is a diff of production code, I won't be displaying or sharing any of it. Instead, what I've done is rename or change every method, number, file name, and variable to the point where the code contains nothing Heartbound related, but whose general structure still retains that of Heartbound's. In other words, the only thing that changed is the data. The code flow is the exact same. Let's take a look and see whether or not the writing really is the bottleneck. Starting from the top of the div.
Okay, hold up. I gotta go get my groceries from downstairs, but I'll be back in a second. I have to put on just like... Actually, let's watch this. Quinn69 being blown away by Pirate Software being fucked.
Sorry. That's
I'll be right back.
You read that from chat. Nah.
Wow.
No way.
Then
Well,
it's
why is he lying about a computer game? It's okay to not get things in computer games.
People have no idea how to play puzzle games these days. I don't understand the idea of
Pirate Software
looking
is
at
such a
the
cunt, bro.
answers to puzzle games. And you need to
Such a
not do
cunt,
that.
bro.
All right, we're gonna get a daily Pirate Software video, guys. We got a daily Pirate Software video.
In this house, we solve puzzles. And we don't look up the answers. Because where the hell's the fun in that, bud?
Here we go.
Otherwise, it's about learning stuff. You're kind of exploring a big ass like solar system. It's a really good game if you don't know about Outer Wilds.
Is he speaking English?
You should play it. It's really great. I'm explaining how much of a dickhead this guy is, and it's gonna be super funny. So here it is. He goes in this tower, right? There's a thing called there's like quantum stuff. There's a thing called quantum shards, which is basically we can look at it here. Yeah. But you can hear that. Can you hear that? You can't hear that. There he is. So this is a quantum object.
Okay.
When you look away, it moves.
Follows the same pattern.
Right?
We can't jump because this planet's gravity.
Watch it go away.
Can't do it.
Okay, he did go away. There, this is the same thing, right? You turn around, it moves.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
crazy. And let's go to the start when he looks at the puzzle. So there's a
Wait,
few
is this
rules about these
spoilers?
quantum objects.
Do I have to
And
share that? Is
in this tower,
That's
you
like-
learn-
so true. Everything is like that. So nice that I refuse to use it.
in this tower you learn a pretty important rule about it.
Let me go up.
And it has to do with the fact that this scout launcher up here, this scout launcher takes pictures. You equip it, or you just press right click, yeah? You just right click and you take a picture. Here it is. He's actually using it now. Oh, that's actually even funnier. So he just used it for no reason. And this puzzle here teaches you take a picture of these objects and then they don't disappear when they look away, when you look away.
Is this guy like the average Twitch chatter? Is this like the average Twitch chatter here? Like, oh, he's so stupid.
He's gonna read it.
He's so dumb. Oh my
This
god.
is like the first teaching thing,
This planet's
where it just teaches you to look at the stuff. And he kind of does it on accident, I think. You can tell he's trying to go there, he looked away. It's gone.
What?
He's confused. He doesn't understand. He doesn't know. He doesn't know what's happening.
Stupid streamer.
Okay.
Okay, he kind of gets it, right? When you look away. This is 4 hours into the game, by the way. You learn this, actually, you literally learn this at the start, but he probably skipped that room.
It disappears.
So he's stupid. But that's different. This is the room where you need to know that you take a picture. And you know you have a picture thing.
He knows he's got a picture
Yeah.
thing.
And then you read this, right? Observing an image, they're the same, right? When I was there, I was like, oh,
Bro, that is so obvious. That is so obvious. If you know you got a camera, bro. Nah, if you know you got a camera and then it says this. Then again, maybe am I being a hindsight Andy, actually? Oh, maybe I'm being a no. I would figure this out, bro. I would figure this out straight away. In image, I'm like,
an image. I take an image. You have this thing that you can take an image with. You take an image. This is not the important part.
it can't be that simple.
This is all set up. This is all set up.
It can't be that simple.
Observing
And this is not hard to understand.
an image from a quantum object.
It's like a
these are the
tutorial.
Because the game is about knowing stuff. Now you know stuff. You know you have this. He just used it. He just used it like 5 minutes ago, which is even crazier. So he doesn't figure this out. He doesn't figure this out for a while. Yeah, I'm gonna skip ahead.
I'm not gonna lie. This was one of the funnest puzzles that I'm like super happy I solved when I played the game. And it was so funny watching Pirate Software take like 50 or 60% longer to solve it than me, and he cheated. Yes! That was the biggest win. Because I've been watching Pirate Software for a few months. Not like watching him that often, just on and off. He was huge on the YouTube shorts. His shorts gave a great impression of him. So, like, you know, I was like, wow, this is like a smart dude. And then I heard all the bullshit, and then I went and played the game, and then I fucking did way better than he did. Well, I didn't overall do better than he did. He ultimately saved the game very fast. But, like, with only like a third of the game's information, he goes to the end and just kind of beats it, which is fucked. And I also got to assume that, like, his gathering of the information was also, like, done in a guided way because he's cheating. But whereas I'm, like, just gradually exploring this universe, he's like, oh, I should go here. This part's, like, the most interesting part. I'll just go here and do this. And then he somehow goes to the most interesting part, which isn't interesting for him because he, like, doesn't know the context because he hasn't done the game, but, like, yeah, dickhead, bro. But the trick with this puzzle was that, like, you know, you got to take fucking photos of a doorway, and then you got to look at the photo, which stops the doorway from moving to a different dimension when you look away because you're still looking at a photo of it. And that was pretty satisfying to figure out. And honestly, it takes like gamer knowledge. Like Quinn69 is correct, where he's like, I would just know that one of the only things I have in my inventory is a camera, so I probably have to use the camera. Actually, true. Anyway, I'm super interested to look at this code.
The only thing that changed is the data. The code flow is the exact same. Let's take a look and see whether or not the writing really is the bottleneck. Starting from the top of the diff, changes are sorted by file name. Jason actually has decent naming for his files, and luckily for us, those that are dialogue related are all at the top of the diff. Including lines of code produced by the diff tool, git, used for annotation, we have give or take around 381 lines of dialogue. The total diff size is 1,780 lines. The diff actually doesn't contain the full code change, so it's possible there are more lines of dialogue that are not included here. This is actually irrelevant for my point. Once again, this is irrelevant for the point I'm about to make, because the next set of lines tell us everything we need to know about why Heartbound's code can no longer scale, and why its development has crawled at a snail's pace. Let's zoom in on the third line in the change set. -13, 9, +13, 1,164. What does this mean? It means that there were previously 9 lines of code here, starting at line 13. Now there are 1,164 lines of code here, starting at line 13. In other words,
Fucking muted myself because I have my speakers on. Bruh. what Pirate Software is doing is he's got a thing called a switch in his code, which is kind of like a boolean, like a true or false, but not exactly. You need to think of it more like, is the coffee hot or is the coffee cold? What Pirate Software does is, instead of programming his code to say, is the coffee hot or is the coffee cold, he says, is this a universe with a cold coffee or a hot coffee? And in a regular code, you would just want the coffee to turn cold after 20 minutes. In Pirate Software's universe, for those 20 minutes, you exist in Hot Coffee universe, and then he copies and pastes everything from Hot Coffee universe on top of Cold Coffee. So you actually enter like a parallel universe, and he has just copy and pasted 1,000 lines of code behind the coffee. So hot coffee never existed in his code or some shit. I don't know. It's fucking weird. It's like it's a weird analogy, but like and essentially when he runs this and your computer tries to run it, your computer's gonna have like a whole bunch of work to do to figure that shit out. It's gonna be processing through a whole lot of stuff. And I don't like, and this is why it's like, even me as like what it feels like a very beginner is like, this is absurd. Like, why not use a boolean for like if x true, then this, instead of like, but like, I don't. There's definitely a lot more that I could understand about why his is bad and why that's like good, because like this coding Jesus guy, it's going to be cool to see someone who is like confident and knows what they're doing and has like helped a lot of people and like all that. See him like really break this down for us.
1,151 lines of code were added.
That is what he's just saying here. He's just saying like, oh, Pirate Software did a little bit of a change on his code, but for some reason there were 9 lines here and now there's 1,000. Well, those 1,000 lines are all going to be copy pasted from another part of his code, and that's not good work that he added in 1,000. It's super sloppy and basically makes his code harder and harder and harder and harder to work on going onwards. Because if you want to change something, well, you got to go find all the other iterations of that thing that he's copy and pasted all over the place because of his terrible philosophy of coding.
Let's take a look at these obfuscated lines. As you can see, the game makes a decision based on the upcoming
as
steps.
well. Sorry, I'm also guessing that this is what happened.
Obfuscated lines. As you can see, the game makes a decision based on the upcoming step. This represents the next scene. There are around 168 case statements that follow. In other words, there are 168 potential events that can take place, each with their own upcoming step and copied and pasted code. Jason has reached the point of no return. The amount of branching out paths has become so convoluted. His endless switch statements to handle diverging paths has left him at a point where even one spelling mistake can lead you down the wrong branch, and where adding scenes is a game of copy and paste. We'll touch on important decisions that could have been made, leveraged by games like Detroit Becoming Human, that could have prevented this in just a moment. To emphasize just how much of a mess this is for the non-technical audience, imagine a ball of yarn. Before you retire that ball of yarn following your knitting session, you need to ensure that it is well put together. If you just throw the ball of yarn back into the trunk, you'll find yourself several knitting sessions later dealing with a jumbled ball of yarn, not knowing where to start or how to proceed. Jason's code is now that jumbled ball of yarn. So how do games like Detroit Becoming Human build a narrative engine on their game? They do so using a graph-based system. For my technical audience, this is a directed acyclic graph, or DAG, of states. For my non-technical audience, this is a flow diagram or behavior tree. The core game logic reads from data tables or JSON-like files that describe A, nodes, B, conditions, and C, effects, not excluding any other project-specific information that's needed. In building this decision engine, programmers don't actually write any C++ or Lua. They simply populate spreadsheets or visual editors to build new scenes and new dialogue. That way, they spend less time on the framework and more time on their creative writing. If you wrote Detroit Becoming Human with nested ifs and cases like we've seen in Jason's work, you'd explode the codebase, risking a single addition breaking branches in hundreds of places. Without going into too much detail as to bore the non-technical audience, common design patterns used in narrative-based systems include 1. The observer pattern, where NPCs listen for updates propagated by other objects, changing their own internal state as a result. For example, when the Alice Rescued event is propagated, the cutscene manager triggers alternative dialogue. Another common pattern is the command pattern, where we encapsulate decisions and actions as objects. Each decision is encapsulated in a command object, making it easier to queue, undo, or replay, for example, in a flowchart. I can keep going, but I think you get the point. It's become more than obvious at this stage. The bottleneck is not writing, it's the code. That is, if Jason actually wanted to write instead of playing Minecraft or hurling insults at other creators. The
He
thing
lied.
is, I wouldn't even blame him if he just came out and said he makes more money streaming than he does developing Heartbound, and as a result, he's not interested in continuing the project. But at this stage, my
You know what I don't get is why he doesn't just refund the $16,000 that he raised for Heartbound. Like, he undeniably has made hundreds of thousands of dollars streaming, potentially millions. He's probably a millionaire. He's probably got a solid 2 million in the bank from the past year or two of streaming. I don't know why he doesn't just refund the $16,000 for Heartbound and, do the right thing.
opinion is that he's using Heartbound as a way to pad his resume so he can maintain the game developer moniker. Heartbound isn't done because it's not supposed to be done, both from the technical perspective, that it is impossible to complete, and the behavioral perspective, that leaving it unfinished allows him to pretend that he's working on something meaningful and important. That's just my opinion. I'll let you come to your own conclusion. I'm just here to review the code. If you like the video,
I'm just here to review the code and leave a scathing opinion. Oh yeah, apparently the game does have a cool lighting system. Like, he brags about it, but like it's not that impressive. We'll see. Oh man, members only. Lame. You can see I've watched some of these three. I haven't watched them as much as I would like.
review of a popular YouTuber and streamer, because literally anything would be better than this. What is
I think Pirate Software did a reaction to this video. That's why this is like a three-parter. Because it's like video reaction, reacting to the like countering the reaction, and then so on and so forth.
Because literally anything would be better than this. What is up, guys? Coding Jesus here. Guys, today we will be doing a code review of a popular YouTuber and streamer by the name of Thor, or Pirate Software. Now, why should you care, and who the hell is Thor? Well, Thor has been the talk of the town as of recently, as he's been an extremely large streamer that has come out against a pro-consumer movement in the gaming space called Stop Killing Games. Stop Killing Games is an initiative launched by a man named Ross Scott, who is an advocate for consumers in the video game space. The purpose of Stop Killing Games is to prevent publishers from revoking access of games from people who have paid to play those games. There are plenty of examples out there of publishers that produce games that require online access to play, but once they pull the plug from their servers, consumers now stop having access to those games. The Stop Killing Games movement is looking to advocate on behalf of consumers in order to mandate that game publishers and game developers have some sort of end-of-life plan for games such that they can continue to be played after the developer would like to stop supporting them. To me, that makes total sense. It doesn't sound fair and isn't right for you to be sold a game as a good, but for it to effectively be a service with an unknown expiration date that the company can not support at any time. Okay, now why am I picking on Thor here in particular? Well, Thor has not only what appears to be lied about his experience, or at the very minimum played it off as something that it's really not, but he's also misrepresented the initiative and has doubled and tripled down in that misrepresentation.
If you're going to be putting forward something that you want to start a conversation to eventually become legislation, and these are the reasons for it, not only can I not agree with the initiative, but I can't agree with you, and I won't agree with Ross. There's no way around that. I think this is gross. To sum it all up, no, I will not be supporting the initiative Stop Killing Games.
Cryptically wishing for the movement to fail.
So I'm going to be honest with you. I hope that your initiative gets everything you asked for, but nothing you wanted.
I don't know why you do that, but he decided to do so. He doesn't even have to agree with the movement. He just needs to admit that he misrepresented it. Now, other creators have reviewed this drama to no end and have gone over his employment history and timeline, but what I want to do that I guess would make this video unique is go over his actual code from his developer live streams and analyze whether this guy has the skills that he claims he has as a 20-year veteran and game developer, working for Blizzard and other game publishers, etc.
My name is Jason Thor Hall, also known as Pirate Software Online. I've been in the gaming industry for about 20 years. I used to work at Blizzard Entertainment, then Amazon Game Studios, and now I own my own studio, Pirate Software, by the same name, which is an indie studio, and I've been here for about 8 years now.
Now,
Yeah,
why
home
should you guys
studio.
listen to me about any of this? Well, I'm a C++ developer with 5 years of experience in the quantitative trading space. I've read dozens of books on C++ and over half a dozen books just on C++ design, from influencers in the space to professors to people that also have YouTube channels to time-tested and trusted books. I've read a lot, and while I'm not an authority in C++, I'm pretty likely to be somebody that can suss out a bad practice if I see one. At least I hope. I also have a bunch of open source contributions in C++ on projects that I find interesting, like Monero. Now, when I was making notes for this video, because I
Monero is super interesting. I did a deep dive into that like a year and a half ago. I wish I could remember.
like to come prepared, I thought I'd need to go through dozens
Sorry, I didn't do a deep dive. I did a little dive and realized I could go deep. That's why I don't remember anything, because I only did a little look.
of different for this I find interesting, like Monero.
Go deep. That's why I don't remember anything, because I only did a little look.
Of different for this I find interesting, like Monero. Now, when I was making notes for this video, because I like to come prepared, I thought I'd need to go through dozens of different developer streams. But what I found out really quickly is that I can only find 2 developer streams. Honestly, if I was claiming I'm a game developer with 20 years of experience, this would be embarrassing to have online. Let's take a look at what's really wrong about this. And I don't even need to be a game dev to understand that. When you look at the code here, what do you see? You see a lot of magic numbers. That's an industry term for numbers that don't have any description or explanation as to what they are or why they exist. And you also have a lot of true or false, which is not descriptive at all. When you look at any function call as another developer, you should understand what's going on without needing to read through the implementation of the actual method itself. So part type sprite, part type size, I don't need to read through that to understand what's being passed to it and what it's doing. But that's not what's going on here. I should need to ask myself, what is this number 1? What is the 0? What does it signify? Right? Imagine we have a car object, and I create the car object by passing in 96, 4, false, false. Do you have any idea about what those numbers mean?
So weird. His code is so weird.
How I'm initializing that car? You don't.
Breaks my brain out.
A step above that, a better alternative would be to specify in words what 96 means. For example, unsigned 32-bit integer horsepower equals 96. Number of doors equals 4. Is automatic equals false. Is electric equals false. And then pass that into the construction of car. That is the bare minimum. That's what I would expect out of an intern that's fresh out of school.
An intern.
Taking
That's what
that
I
a
would
step
be doing.
further, you can implement
It's
a
weird that he
concept
doesn't do
called
it.
strong typing, which is the most expressive form of instantiation.
That's what I would
What
be
we
doing.
can do in that case
Sorry, that's what I would be doing, and I would find it totally possible and not overly challenging, but I'd be like pretty satisfied doing it. I expect Thor would do this effortlessly, and he should be looking at it like, oh, I could optimize this way harder. But he doesn't. He does insane things.
is define an alias at the bare minimum or a class, and we can call it horsepower. And then we can create an enumeration for things like transmission or fuel. And then we'd alter the car's constructor and pass in that information. Horsepower 98, door number 4, transmission automatic, fuel gasoline. You don't need to be a game developer to know that that's a lot more maintainable than whatever Thor has here. Another really good example of that is at 2556.
True. You don't
So
need to
if
be
we
a game
jump
dev.
there,
I'm not one.
okay, right here.
This
Alarm
is
0,
crazy.
alarm 1, alarm 2. What is that? What are those alarms? Is it an alarm for person A, an alarm for whatever character, an alarm to do what? It's unexpressive. It's really spaghetti code, in my opinion. Okay, let's go to around 1 hour and 4 minutes. This is also...
Sure, I could call it like, like I don't know, like maybe I should like crack into a game. I guess it's like a waste of time. I should be doing things to like better my life, but like maybe in my spare time it would be fun to like crack into Fear and Hunger's code or something. and look at like how it's coded to say when Griffith dies, like that changes like a whole storyline element. Like, what does that look like? Although I guess people don't just release their game's code, right? Otherwise, I could just copy it and then have their game for free.
A complete mess for a couple of reasons. First of all, Thor is using the incorrect data types. This isn't even getting to some sort of advanced design or design pattern. It's showing a complete lack of understanding how to represent information in a program.
Yeah, this actually makes it. It's difficult to describe how weird, and it's not weird. It's just to describe how amateur he is. Thor is the kind of guy that I feel like I could bring him into like a few of my coding lessons, and he would be like hearing words for the first time that are mainly used to learn code. So like when this guy's like Thor's using the wrong data type, it makes me feel like he probably doesn't even know what certain data types are.
Okay? What do I mean by
And like this is like super important for like me doing my coding lessons, where I would spend a week where we would do like 3 or 4 lessons where we would talk a lot about like here's some data types and here's other ones and here's how it works on the back end and like blah blah blah, and then now you've got good at that, like let's test you to use them, and then let's get a little bit more complicated. It's like he's just done none of that. And that's like day 20, day 30 kind of stuff of like learning code. Not like something where Pirate Software's been doing this for 8 years. He's so silly. Like the way he codes is so silly.
that? Well, look at question asked equals 0. Question asked, in my opinion, is true or false. Has this question been asked? It should be a Boolean data type. What does 0 mean? Booleans are represented as integers under the hood. So in C++, anything that isn't 0 is true. So 1 is true. But why would you even give another developer the option to write question asked equals 42? In theory, that should be true because anything other than 0 is true. But why even allow somebody to write code that can potentially be that confusing? It's just a no-go. Another thing here that I noticed is the absurd amount of comments. Most of the time, you don't need to write comments in your code. That's because your code should be self-documenting. But there is a 1 to 5% case rate in which you should be writing comments only if
So imagine being a Pirate Software fan and just watching this guy rattle off like, that was kind of weird. And another thing is the comments. This is also weird. And this is weird. And this is shit. And this is shit. Your favorite creator's kind of shit, bro. The fall off on Pirate Software must be huge.
your code is extremely complex. And that's
I
not
need to
the
go
case
recruit
here.
his fans,
This is a
to be
simple
honest.
if statement and a simple switch statement. You don't need to add comments here. Having a comment for we have asked the question.
I should do Domino's Pizza version of Pirate Software. I'll pump out hundreds of YouTube shorts. And I'll be like, I worked at Domino's Pizza for 9 years. I'm really smart. I beat this game really quick. And then I'll just like, I don't know, I'll do whatever he does in his shorts where he says something like kind of basic, but then he makes it sound like it's real important and then makes himself sound really important by saying he works for things. His shorts are all like that, and like all of his shorts, he mentions Blizzard, where he mentions being a game dev, or he mentions owning a company. And like I have to say, like, yeah, millions and millions and millions and millions of views on his shorts. Absolutely dominated YouTube with them.
Question and question asks equals 1 is totally superfluous, a waste of time, a waste of space. I'm not sure why it was added, if not just to waste time on a dev stream, to spend more time pretending you're coding than watching videos. Okay, let's take a look at his second stream, because the rest of this stream is reviewing other games, looking at his subscription count. I don't know why he gets so horny looking at this. Watching video games, etc. You guys get the point. Storyline array number. Oh my god. Here he appears to be storing a timeline of events in a flat one-dimensional array with random numbers as the indices in order to represent said event. So Literally anything would be an upgrade over what is written here. For example, what he could have done is created a nested structure where all of those default values, instead of being hard-coded and written in some file, can simply be stored in a YAML or configuration file that can be edited outside of the build as to not waste time rebuilding the entire application in a YAML or XML format. That's Development 101. You learn it in the first week of your new job as either an intern or a junior developer. What's even worse is he now also needs to remember what 419 means. So somewhere in his code, he needs to actually add a comment or something to represent what 419 is. As you can see here, I found the file that contains all these events, which are the association between a magic number and some state. It's very obvious that this can get very unwieldy extremely quickly. As you can see here, he has some number associated with 0, 1, or even 2, and then he needs to detail in a comment what that means. Now, imagine a developer accidentally puts 2 here or 3. Finding, tracking, and solving that bug is really going to be a development nightmare. What if you forget to type 3 here and accidentally type 2 and start associating coffee cold knowledge with floor 2 coffee age? Or even worse, in your code somewhere, instead of typing 213, you type 214, and now need to go back and track why your game is misbehaving. This is
like Factorio spaghetti code times 10. It's like, why am I not getting enough small engines? And then you trace this back through your spaghetti for like 10 minutes until you find that, like, oh, it's because the steam output is bad. But it's like that times like a billion. Plus it's like a professional product instead of just me playing Factorio. He's so insane with his code.
extremely poor practice.
Why is it called storyline array 213? And it is, for some reason, is the coffee cold. Why is it not called story array coffee cold? You know, why didn't he just call it coffee cold? And then that way it's always like, is coffee cold? False.
And can get very messy very quickly. Not only that, but this is going to significantly decrease the velocity of your development, because you're going to need to jump between the storyline vars file, find the event you want to reference somewhere else in code, and go back to that line that you like to reference the event in. So you're going to constantly need to be jumping between files, forgetting, potentially mistyping. And
I'm enjoying really having a good look at Pirate Software's really bad code.
Recipe for disaster.
So it's
When it comes to the
I had a pizza just now, so happy, healthy. I'm thinking about, I might make some YouTube shorts, which means every stream, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pause and look at my camera and be like, oh yeah, hey guys, I worked for Domino's Pizza for 8 years, so I kind of, know what I'm talking about. When I'm hacking that pepperoni, I'm actually a pizza chef. They call me a pizza chef. And that shit's gonna get me millions and millions of views on YouTube. I'll be like, as a pizza chef, like, I've got some life hacks. You don't really need to heat your food up to like over 150 degrees, unless, and here's the life hack, if it's a pizza, you want to double that heat. Not only do you cook it faster, but you get a crunchier base. And I'll just present that shit like you're getting the insider info from a guy who's worked at Domino's for 8 years, when in reality, you could literally just ask anyone that, and they will be like, yeah, cook pizza hot. But like, Pirate Software has undoubtedly, I think, in my mind, made millions of dollars. Yeah, he did get huge. Billions, trillions of views on YouTube Shorts. And I'm sure he's made millions of dollars over the past couple of years. And he's way too proud to refund the $16,000 that have been donated to his shitty game. Because if he does, then he doesn't have this cool little side project that I own a studio. I own a studio called Pirate Software Studios. I'm a studio owner and I'm a game dev. And it's like, bro, you are failing at shit that I learned on day 20. And you are trying to tell me that you've worked at Blizzard for 8 years and are a game dev. Like, you do not even have like 3 or 4 weeks of progress in an intensive coding course. You could just take a 4-week coding course and you would be better at coding. Like, he is so dog shit. Two things I see wrong with Pirate is that he keeps acting like he's top tier at everything and he's not admitting he's just wrong. The not admitting he's just wrong thing is like catastrophic. Him being this bad at coding is like a whole other level where I'm like, this is like beyond. This isn't cope. This is like aggressive lying and manipulating. So I have like a deeper like level of like, oh, this man is like a mentally ill fucking freak, kind of part of my personality. And I watched a lot of him like as a fan. Like, I found it entertaining. I felt like I was watching someone who was actually smart and doing like interesting shit. And sometimes I did feel like, oh, we're looking into like super cool stuff, like, but it never quite delivered. It never quite got right into that vibe that I was looking for. And now, ironically, like over the past year of me knowing Pirate Software, I've become like pretty capable at coding. So now I get to see behind the curtain.
Structure, though.
It's so sick. This coding Jesus guy seems actually cracked, and he's put a lot of work into finding examples of Pirate's code. So I'm pretty enjoying watching this guy's work.
Tell me what.
Because I'm not going to go dig up. Apparently, Pirate Software's code isn't like freely available, and not in this video, but like over the past like day or two, Coding Jesus did get his hands on some of Pirate Software's code, but otherwise, he said the only way he found it was he found 2 streams where Pirate put it on screen and didn't even work on it.
What you think is better, what Thor has here, or what I have on screen, which in my opinion is much more expressive. Now, this goes beyond simply liking code better. What I have on screen is objectively better because it makes it harder for you and others to make mistakes, and it's a lot clearer as to what's going on. I don't even need to know how this game is designed to understand that whatever is going on is
this is the crazy
so you're
part.
going to constantly need to.
What we're looking at here is things in Pirate Software's code are called storyline array. So global just means this can be used anywhere. Storyline array is the name of a list that it's in, and then 217 is the item in the list, and then =0 means its state of being. And then we'll go down to the one that's lit up. So 213 is, and then the dash and then everything in green isn't code. It's just like a description where you can write anything just to like let yourself know what's going on. And for some fucking retarded reason, this is super weird to do. Pirate Software has just added fuckloads of green to explain his code. And you might think, oh, you need all this green to explain what's going on this left-hand side because, like, you know, it's just 211, 212, 213. Well, you don't need this green. You could just call... What you could do is make this not a list, because storyline array is the name of the list, and then the 213 is what object in the list it is. You could just call it not storyline array 213. You could just call it coffee cold knowledge over here, and then you would say coffee cold knowledge =0. I would just call it like characters coffee hot, like Jimmy's coffee hot, or store coffee hot, or like whatever. Instead, he calls it 213, and then he has a note way further. And so every single time he ever interacts with this coffee anywhere, he has to come back and find this part of the code and look at it. Whereas, like, wouldn't it just be fucking nice to, like, just check? How does he fucking bug check his code when something goes wrong and it's just like object 315 bugged, object 485 bugged, object 150 not responding from here? Yeah, worked at Blizzard for 7 years, by the way, literally doing shit that is incomprehensible, that he could fix if he had done 2-3 weeks of like a coding course. He would know not to do this. The idea that his philosophy behind creating a game was so empty and he had no idea what he was doing, that this is like the way he thought a game would look behind the scenes is like bizarre. A lot of it feels like he actually knew that this was fucked, but he chose to do it anyway because it looks cool to someone who doesn't know what they're looking at. The same with boom, 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 boom.
Step above.
The same with this. Like, he has this little array here. What he could be, and what he's doing, this is the same thing, right? Before it said global storyline, what was it? Global storyline array. Yeah, he just wants to use the word array, I guess. This is technically an array as well. In Factorio, when I build 2 furnaces that like process iron ore into iron, that's technically an array of furnaces because there's 2 of them. This is an array of 6 alarms, and he is getting alarm 1, alarm 2, alarm 3 and turning it to 0. Wow. The way this should be written by anyone who has more than a beginner's knowledge is for range, for n in range 1 to 6, alarm square bracket n equals 0, and then it will just loop through, and 6 times it will, and then n will change from 0 to 6, and it will do it 6 times as well. So it'll perform this action 6 times, and each time it will add 1 to n. I mean, I would go n plus 1 actually as well. I don't know. There'd be a little bit of code, but like basically in 1 or 2 lines, I could get all of these to turn to 0 without having to write out 6 lines of code. And that's called list comprehension. And there's way more advanced versions of list comprehension. This is incredibly basic. This is super easy. But he doesn't need all of this green either, because we can just look, as someone who can read code, we can just look and understand, and also this green stuff here might become irrelevant later, which means it's just going to get in the way and miscommunicate something. So it's actually super bad to have this green stuff in. It's way worse having green stuff that doesn't make sense when you would rather just be able to understand what the code did by looking at it because you are a coder, rather than looking at the code and being like, this does that, but then this is like a handwritten explanation of it which doesn't match. Why is that? Oh, well, it's probably because the code changed way earlier on. But is it? Maybe we need to change the code to say what the green stuff is going to say. Maybe this is something I'm meant to do later. I don't know. Like, buh, 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 buh. And it goes on and on and on to the point where he is copying and pasting massive chunks, like 1,000 lines of his code. Sometimes gets copy and pasted. And the reason for that is because he doesn't understand information types. So instead of saying true or false, he says 0 and 1. But 0 is the only thing that matters. It could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is like a different version of that. Here they can have states of 0, 1, or 2. But like, I don't know why. I have no clue why he does this. But instead of changing the state of an object, he almost deletes that object and replaces it with a new object that is similar but different. So it's like the cold coffee disappears and turns into a hot coffee. But when he does that, the whole universe changes, because what he does is copy and paste like 1,000 lines of code. So then he has 2,000 lines of code that are like mirroring each other, and when he changes one, he has to go change the other to be identical. Plus, on top of that, his code is, like I said here, where it's all just these fucking numbers called storyline array. Like I said, these could just be called, and back here, these were called alarm, right? This is like a different version of this. Alarm 1, alarm 2. This is like a bizarre story array, hundreds and hundreds of story arrays. It doesn't even need to be a list. The global part here is just that this can be used anywhere. Technically, like, there's a chance that these alarms are in the global here. Like, you have things called like classes in code, and you have objects, and you have defined definitions of like classes, and say alarm was defined within a class, it could only be used within that definition or within that class. But if you put alarm global, you might want to like pull something from the very top level into there, and you can do that. But if you want to spit it back out, you make it like a global variable and type global dot. So like the global part is just necessary and useful, but like a different thing. But like the craziest part about this is like I don't get why this is a list, and I don't get why the list is numbered. He could also write storyline array square bracket coffee. This doesn't have to be a number. It's kind of useful if it's a number, because you can do things before like n equals 1 and then n plus 1, and then every time it iterates, it would be like n equal 2 and then n plus 2, and it would automatically do that to then like do something to like the entire list. And that was that list comprehension I was talking about earlier, which is like what he should have done for the alarm. But like there are other ways to do this without making these numbers. You could just say n equals the object and storyline array that falls into this position in the list. So you could say in the fourth n, or the fourth object in the list, or the fourth variable, sorry, it's called a variable, not an object. The fourth variable in the list is now the same as this, and then we want to like change that to that, and then replace the original with this. So you could like find and change these without having these as numbers, like. And I'm not a game dev, so I don't understand completely the philosophy of how to do this in the most traditional, useful, human way possible. But what I can tell you is that neither does Pirate Software.
Why
And I don't have 8 years at Blizzard,
your
bro.
game
And also, I did way, way better at all of the video games that he's ever played than he has. This guy's a fucking hack. This is inspiring me to maybe play Animal well.
is misbehaving. This is extremely poor.
Well, I've actually worked at Domino's for 8 years. I just ate a really substandard pepperoni pizza. I prepped it up with a bit of like cheese, and you know what? I sprayed a little bit of olive oil on top, which really gave it an extra crispy flavor. Worked at Domino's for 8 years, by the way, so I definitely know what I'm talking about.
Practice and can get very messy very quickly. Not only that, but this is going to significantly
I'm gonna get 1 million views on YouTube for that short. Heaps of fat people are gonna like start watching my shit.
and can get very messy very quickly. Not only that, but this is going to significantly decrease the velocity of your development, because you're going to need to jump between the storyline vars file, find the event you want to reference somewhere else in code, and go back to that line that you'd like to reference the event in. So you're going to constantly need to be jumping between files, forgetting, potentially mistyping, and it's just a recipe for disaster. When it comes to
I'm not sure, but I assume this would slow your game down as well. Sorry, not that, but the thing he does where he copy and pastes, like he'll copy and paste like 1,000 lines of code, because like he doesn't know how to change like in Detroit Become Human. I think this is sort of what he's saying back here. Like in Detroit Become Human or other storyline based games, it's like choose option A or choose option B. Instead of like canonically, you're like entering a new timeline, but like in the code, you don't have to do that. You just flick a thing to be like, did they pick A or did they pick B? If they picked A, then do this. If they picked B, then do that. Pirate Software's game doesn't do that, apparently. Apparently, Pirate Software's game does throw you into a whole nother line of code, which is like massive and has everything built from the ground up again. And it's like, why does your game have like 5 different versions of itself every time your character makes a decision, as opposed to just like having a base world where different events happen if you do different things? Instead, you have mini worlds that just lag your computer to oblivion. Like, it's terrible, terrible code. Yeah, and imagine debugging that. Every time you debug one thing, you have to go change everything else. And then you look at the way the lists are made, that like if you write the wrong number in, then you're like fucked all the way down, and you might have to spend all day trying to figure out what mistake you made because you didn't realize. Debugging is a nightmare, dude. Debugging is so shit. It's the worst part of coding, and his is very hard to debug, which can very easily, I imagine, get to a point where your code is unworkable. This is an inhuman, impossible, stupidly hard task that like you've just fucked it. You've just totally fucked it. And allegedly, that's what Pirate Software's game has become. It's just an uncompletable game. Like you cannot finish.
Structure.
You can't finish making the game. Sorry, it's not a difficult game to play. It's probably very easy to play. But he'll never finish it, and no one ever will.
Though, tell me what you think is better. What Thor has here?
We could do a watch on what's his name, Virgin Anime Loser game, and he made that game Otaku Simulator, Tsundere Simulator, Tsundere Simulator game bad code. Apparently, this game had the worst code of Yandere dev. Can I see Yandere dev's code? Yes, you can. It's created a repository. I might as well find. Okay, here we go. I wonder, can I see Fear and Hunger's code? I would love to see the code for Fear and Hunger. It does not provide it publicly. The game is available for push on Steam. And I can decrypt the game. Oh yeah, true. Yeah, I might have a look at that one day. I feel like Justical or my therapist or a lot of people would be like, hey, stop wasting your time. You need to get your life together and not look at that. But I kind of really want to, and I'm allowed to have hobbies. So I might look at Fear and Hunger code as a hobby.
Which in my opinion is much more expressive. Now this...
Did Undertale have shitty code? Did Undertale have shitty code? Well, I think Fear and Hunger and Undertale are both based on similar things. I think I have heard Undertale as being told, like, Undertale's code is a complete unoptimized mess. Yeah, this has become like a folk tale though, of like I can do it too. Man, like the guy who made Undertale persisted and like did it, and like anyone can do it. But like, doesn't matter how bad the code is, the game works and people adore it. Masterpiece of a game, a great example. I'm not gonna lie, I think about replaying Undertale every now and again. It was a fun little journey, and I recommend it to people quite often. Juniper Deb. Oh look, here's one with Pirate. See, like this is fucked, dude. Did I get hashtag Pirate Software?
Undertale is the best example of this.
Oh look, it's a YouTube.
Undertale is made by Toby Fox. Undertale is a brilliant goddamn game. It's very good. It's also coded like shit, and that's fine. If you look at the decompiles that people have done of Undertale, you'll find that there are rooms that have hundreds of if statements checking the same value, then it sets it to 0, then it checks it again before doing anything. Meaning all of those if statements did nothing except for take processing power. There are sections of the game that show, like, oh, here's an example. All the dialogue in all of Undertale is in a single switch case statement in one object. It's thousands and thousands of cases long. Single object, all of the dialogue in the game. Hard-coded into that object. Insane. Insane behavior. But it doesn't matter. You can be bad at programming and make a brilliant game that changes the entire industry. Undertale is the best example of this. Undertale is made by Toby Fox. Undertale is a brilliant goddamn game. It's very good. It's also coded like shit. And that's fine. If you look at the decompiles that people have done of Undertale, you'll find that there are rooms that have hundreds of if statements.
Okay, I'm leaving a comment on this video. But I feel like I need feedback because I'm an impulsive cunt. And just tell me guys what, like, I don't think, just tell me what you think. Like, I don't think you guys would do this. I don't think many people would be like, hey, this is like a dumb idea, Crispy. Like, what are you hoping to get out of this? And I'm not hoping or thinking. I'm just doing. That's crazy, because I'm going to compare Undertale's code to your code and see what Toby Fox finished this game, whereas yours is unworkable. I can't wait to learn more about game design philosophy from your lack of ability. That's funny, right? That could be funnier, too. You've never played it? Well, I would love to play it for you, and if you want to like chill out and watch me play it. Yeah, Undertale is a sick little journey. Yeah, I was gonna say I could like ask you some questions about what kind of playstyle you want me to do, but like I don't want to spoil it for you either. I just wanted it to be like more natural because like you just play. The cool thing about Undertale is there's a bunch of ways to play, and the first time I played it, I'm a big gamer who's played a lot of games, so I played it the way that I thought that it wanted me to play it because it's the way that every game wants you to play it. Like you run, you jump, you fight, you talk, and you do this and you do that. And then I realized I could take the game as seriously or not seriously as I wanted and play around with the mechanics and like do this and do that. And it would have dramatic effects on the game, like unlocking entire hidden like character development paths and arcs. And I was like, oh, this is sick, dude. Like, there's good reason why Undertale is a sick game, and it's definitely not like my style of game. I'm not like a huge weeb. I'm not like a huge person into that kind of style of like artwork. But like, man, it's cool. It's a cool, fun game. Not too long, not too short. Gripping, emotive, creative. Height. It worked.
It's checking the same value, then it sets it to 0, then it checks it again before doing it.
Oh, I need to watch this.
Decompiles that people have done of Undertale, you'll find that there are rooms that have hundreds of if statements checking the same value, then it sets it to 0, then it checks it again before doing anything. Meaning all of those if statements did nothing except for take processing power.
What does that mean?
0, then it checks it again before doing anything. Meaning all of those if statements did nothing except for take processing power. There are sections of the game that show, like, oh, here's an example. All the dialogue in all of Undertale is in a single switch case statement in one object.
Justical waffled on about this and actually was hypothesizing this could potentially not be that bad. It does sound bizarre, but like, I think Justical actually ended up concluding that like people do this sometimes.
It's thousands and thousands of dialogue in all of Undertale is in a single switch case statement in one object. It's thousands and thousands.
So I don't know what a switch case statement is. I guess it's like a yes, no, and then switch case statement in an object. I mean, I kind of know what a switch case statement is. I just can't get my head around
All of
this.
Undertale is in a single switch case statement in one object.
And then it's in an object, like, yeah, but not in a class, and then all of the dialogue, and then you would just cut here or there. I mean, I don't inherently see a problem with this. It just sounds like, whoa, that sounds crazy, but like, is it? And I think Justical had not too many worries about this statement.
Thousands and thousands of cases long. Single object, all of the dialogue in the game.
And what is his use of parlance here? Like, thousands of cases long? What does he mean, cases? Because you have camel... A case isn't a character. Is he saying thousands of characters, or thousands of words, or thousands of what? A case, you have camel case, snake case, camel case, or snake case just means everything is in lower uncapitalized. I'm such a retard, bro. Camel case. Camel case is a naming convention where multiple words are combined into a single word with the first letter. Okay, so if camel case doesn't have spaces, and instead of having a space, the first letter of each word is capitalized. It has no spaces or punctuation. Right? Snake case. So Pirate Software is actually just saying like nonsense. That might be it's at best a misspeak, where he is actually saying a sentence which doesn't make sense. Snake case is a programming convention where multiple word identifiers, like variables or function names, are written in lowercase, and words are separated by underscores. Different kinds of cases, e.g. snake case, camel case. There's some funny ones that like I've been learning of recently. What about, so Pascal case, where, sorry, camel case doesn't have the very first letter, or the first word doesn't get a capital, so that's why it's like a camel, because it's got a hump, but the head isn't capitalized. Pascal case is what you typically think without, it doesn't have all the underscores like this, it's just got capitals, so that's like what I use for most of my code, or like all of my code. And kebab case, that's the one. Lowercase with hyphens. So kebab case seems pretty cool too. I guess those are like the four. But yeah, Pirate Software's a fucking dickhead. What is he even
in
saying here?
thousands of cases long. Single object, all of the dialogue in the game. Hard-coded into that object. Insane. Insane behavior. But it doesn't matter.
Why? Why is it insane?
You can be bad at programming and make a brilliant game that changes the entire industry. Undertale is the best example.
That's right, and then he just punctures it home with the statement that I made earlier that, like, Undertale has this, like, amazing story. And somehow this dude gets 71,000 upvotes and millions of views on this fucking short. You know, like, shouldn't I be doing this? I should be making a short like this. What he could have done here to probably get another 100,000 upvotes is say, I worked at Blizzard for 8 years. If he had managed to squeeze that in here, this would have probably been way more blown up. But 2,000 comments, 70,000 views, I would shit myself if this happened to me.
Death in
Shut up, cunt. I would shit myself if this happened to me. I would just look at this like, holy shit, this is $3,000. I'm about to get paid. This is life-changing if I had a short like this, I think. Stream of Thoughts, 955 subscribers. That's fucking crazy. This dude is just pumping Asmongold, Pirate Software, a little bit of Destiny. Who is this cunt?
I might give it maybe another day. Like, I don't know, but like I think I'm pretty much done. Yeah. Yeah, I am. I think that the DLC is too hard for it to be fun.
Dude, Elden Ring is too hard to be fun.
Like,
I don't give a fuck about that
when
game.
every single attack combo like stuns you, and then you're locked into an animation, and then you get insta kill.
Yeah, I don't know. Mindlessly throwing combos at fucking 3D objects. I don't give a fuck, bro. Where's Destiny?
I'm gonna be real with you.
Destiny?
I met one of the people that I think is cool as shit here on Twitch. I met him because his mods banned me accidentally. So Steven Spawn is the CEO.
I
this is a
might
gay
give it
story where he's like, my name being Pirate Software got me banned.
and I just don't.
Bro, Destiny's not even in this clip. They just showed Destiny's face. What is this? He's reading a Dr. Disrespect thing? Jake, seriously, I get it, it's a hot topic, but this has been settled. No wrongdoings was acknowledged, and they paid out the whole contract. Hell yeah.
A short journey, they've got to wear a helmet. Now, I'm lucky to be standing here. I'm in pain, it's been a brutal week, and I'm sort of getting through it. But I cannot tell you the importance of wearing a helmet. This weekend is massive. It's Father's Day.
What the
for new
fuck?
fathers, old fathers, middle-aged fathers. I want...
Hold up. Gordon Ramsay road accident? What the fuck? After a bike accident.
Hi guys, it's Gordon. I'd like to share a very important message with
Dude, is he having nerve damage?
you all.
Because, yeah, fucking you
know
would,
how
right?
much I love cycling and triathlons and Ironman, etc. This week, unfortunately, I had a really bad accident.
Yeah, bro,
and
you got fucked up.
It really shook me. And honestly, I'm lucky to be here. Now, from those incredible trauma surgeons, doctors, nurses in the hospital that looked after me this week, they were amazing. But honestly, you've got to wear a helmet. I don't care how short the journey is. I don't care, you know, the fact that these helmets cost money, but they're crucial. Even with the kids, a short journey, they've got to wear a helmet. Now, I'm lucky to be standing here. I'm in pain. It's been a brutal week, and I'm sort of getting through it. But I cannot tell you the importance.
Dude, he ripped a bunch of fucking muscles apart. That is a brutal. Gordon Ramsay and his chef. All that. Who trained Gordon Ramsay? This guy. I always get a whole lot of this dude. on my timeline. Not Ramsay, the other guy.
In my eyes, the true gourmet is one of the only chefs who actually doesn't just respect food, but actually loves eating food. And I think that's why he's gone so far within the profession, because without any classical training, he's got this great understanding for food.
Limited edition, clean shaven crisp. Post manifesto crisp, dude. I think the little beard that I had, it wasn't so little, it was kind of getting on, but I think it actually wasn't as crazy looking and homeless looking as I was worried it did. because I went out for like a big walk and I went to a bunch of stores and talked to people, and people seemed to just like think I just looked like a comfy, cozy kind of dude. One person said that. I was like, yeah, I'm looking at nice suits. I know that I'm wearing like sweatpants and I'm not like groomed up. So there's no point in me like accessories make the outfit, but the outfit is also like made by you dressing up well, right? So even if I was wearing these outfits, I'd still look kind of rough. But I don't actually think I looked as rough as I did with the beard. But the clean shaven, the manifesto was a success. It's a little bit tricky to step back from and feel like, oh, I could improve this or I could improve that. But I uploaded it, and I don't know if I'll get around to like changing a few things up later and then re-uploading it to be like more the way I like it, or if I'll just leave it. Essentially, there wasn't like a whole lot of reason for me to do the manifesto aside from just like being satisfied with myself. I don't expect it to change too many minds, but anyone who does really want to know can like go overlook and watch it a couple of times because it's a lot of information and it's 45 minutes long. So it's there. And like I can always just point to it and be like, hey, if you have questions, like go look. Rhea came back to Justicles community after I posted it and just started saying like really horrible shit that like she actually had another boyfriend the whole time that me and her were together and stuff like that. And was just being like really horrible, but like all of that's like behind me, you know. A lot of trolls like came out for it and stuff, but like yeah, and I don't really get paid that much, so I don't know. Basically, I'm just saying like the manifesto was sick, but like I don't know if I'd super recommend people following in my footsteps. Censure told me at the start of this month, like, hey, you're taking the fallout of this too seriously. Just who gives a fuck? And she was right. Yeah, it's very cringe. The fuck people are cringe, dude. People will be obsessed with it, and I'll be like, hey, you're like super obsessed with my real life. And they're like, yeah, but you've been obsessed with this manifesto for a month. And I'm like, yeah, I have. And I still think you're weird for being obsessed with my real life. Yeah, but Chris, like, you did this and you said that and you like misspoke in the manifesto and like blah, 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 and you're a schizo and you're like lying and you're crazy here. And I'm like, okay. But like, just so you know, like, you're really weird for like overly engaging in my personal life. And like, I have pretty good reasons to be interested in myself and what I'm doing, and you don't have such good reasons to be interested in me and my life. So like, you can say whatever you want about me and play some whataboutisms, but like, man, you people are weird and cringe. I had a fucking dog shit day with it yesterday, bro. Like, I woke up and I like went to Justicle's server and I got locked into like a 2.5 hour fucking session of like people being cunts. Shellboner was there, and she's like a good example of like kind of the cringe, but she's like self-aware and does it intentionally. So Shell will jokingly be like, wait, so you were blackmailing Rhea with this manifesto the whole time? And I'm like, no, Shell. All I'm saying is that Rhea could have reached out at any point. I'm not even saying that I wouldn't have done the manifesto if she'd reached out. Obviously, it's like an evolving situation. I'm just saying she should just reach out. Like, I've been trying to get her to reach out. She hasn't reached out to me, like, in a good faith way, since we were, like, friends. You know, the friendship. Fucking... It didn't explode or anything. It just was her lying about me one day. She just had to reach out, right? A fucking crazy bitch. But so like Shell is ever since I was like 8 or 9 years old, I've been on the internet playing like Tribal Wars or Neopets or whatever, and inevitably you like build a clan and then you like meet people in your clan, and as like a 10-year-old, you know, I'd be like going on like before school. I was the kind of kid to wake up at like 7:30, half an hour on Neopets or whatever to like do the dailies real quick and then head off to school or like do Tribal Wars. And then I would be like talking a lot and organizing a lot, and then you naturally become like a leader. So it was super funny being like a 12-year-old, like in charge of like 50 people in Tribal Wars. And like one of the women who was also like a bit of a leader, because she was putting in the effort, was like a 45-year-old woman. And I'm like a little kid, and I'm like, that's so weird that like a 45-year-old lady is like always here and blah, 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 blah. But throughout my life, there's always some middle-aged woman spending all of her time on the internet. And I always end up sort of making friends with those people. And like Shellboner and Androider are like that archetype, right? Just like old mothers chilling on the thing. Shell doesn't have kids. But I know that like Shell is just not taking that shit seriously at all. Day one, Shell was involved because she was the first person that Rhea was like, hey, I'm gonna like DM you all about how Crispy sexually harassed me. So I just messaged Shell straight away and just showed her like, hey, here's like me and Rhea sexting for the first time, and she initiates it, and I need you to know like everything from here on out as like her being cooked. And then Shell spent like a week like, Shell was immediately like, oh, Rhea is like super fucked up and super lying and super inconsistent. And Shell spent like a week like hanging out with me, like getting the full story and being like, okay. And then Shell just goes off for like a week or two, and I'm aware that me and her aren't friends, but she's like a sub to the channel, and she's like pretty honest, like, and open with it publicly as well. She's like, obviously, like, I'm like kind of like interested, and like I'm like listening to this and listening to that, but I'm not like friends with either of them. Or with Crisp, at least. She might be friends with Rhea, I don't know. But Shell fully does not believe Rhea at all. But she thinks it's super funny that Rhea just left, and now she's just here to be like, so Crisp, are you gonna dox Rhea? What the fuck? Are you threatening to blackmail Rhea? You piece of shit. And she's just lighthearted and hilarious when she does that. Somehow that does not give me as much of a bad vibe as other people like Jacob, who are like fucking weird, disgusting freaks. I don't know. It seems unfair to him for me to like press on him like that much when he's saying things that are less obscene as what she's saying. But there is like a certain kind of intensity, underhandedness, and like drive to it with him where he's like unironically hoping that I like kill myself and I'm destroyed, while also playing it off like he's just like a cool, happy dude, and it makes him look awesome and cool. At my expense, whereas Shell isn't trying to make herself look happy and cool. She's just saying like outrageous, silly things that I don't think anyone takes super seriously. Although it does really bother me when people like Steve or Shabby or Hannah get, yeah, and there are a lot of Jacobs, but Jacob is like the most Jacob, right? Jacob is like obsessed because there are other little Jacobs that are like, oh, and he's like, I'm the best one, and they look up to me and they think I'm a great guy. That we're just not just like me. We're all just like me. Fucking freaks. Yeah, the fact that you guys all want to be that way and be like, I think there being a lot of Jacobs makes him feel like desperate to like be what he thinks is himself. But it just looks like a mask like the whole time to me. And a lot of them look like they're wearing masks, and I think on some level they're like, it's okay to wear a mask sometimes, and maybe, but like the rationalization is still there and intellectually dishonest.
Wish you all a very happy Father's Day, but
Get off my screen, Asmongold. Undertale is a horribly made game by Juniper Dev. Let's immediately give it a subscribe so I can build up my coding thing. Dev Girl, reviewing the thing I want to look at. Could be cool. Shartbound. Looks like this is just a dude playing Heartbound. Oh no, wait, maybe...
A section of code. That's it.
Global store array 367 equal 1. Instance destroy. I disavow this entire video. I did not realize he worked for Blizzard. That is funny, dude. Man, maybe I should play the game and then analyze the code, write a wee script, and see if I can get 1 million views on a video. Let's check out this Lord Frogme guy. He's got 17.3k subs. And he's had big videos over the past month. Wow, brand new channel. And he's kicking ass. You love to see it. You love to see someone just kicking up and boom, 20,000 subs. This would be sick if I get to this position. You know, and a lot of people do get here. Like Cherry has like 20,000 Twitter followers and stuff like that. Death Stranding 2 is the best Metal Gear Solid game. That's hilarious. Dude, this guy is actually putting in work. If he played and made a video on this already and then He's got multiple Pirate Software videos. Fuck, maybe I should follow him. YouTube channel growth stats. Social Blade. Yeah, I guess Social Blade would be the way to go. And then we want to look up Lord Frogmire. Search your favorite YouTube creator. So this guy. Wow, look, he's like in like a month or two, he's made up to like $500 to $1,000, I think. Or is this per day? There's no way this is per day. Views 300. I mean, he got 1 million views, right, on one of those videos. I shouldn't disrespect that. Apparently, he made somewhere between $69 to $1,000. So it's a big range. How much money do I get paid if I get 1 million views on YouTube? I've never been paid by YouTube, even though I have, like, I don't know, I probably have not even that close to 100,000 views. 1,000 to 10,000. Cost per mile, revenue per mile, or per million. Per million. And he got all his 15k subs in the past month. It's fascinating. Where's the video we were actually watching?
Yes!
I got an Emro video, I got a Philion video, I got an Alexander Bromley, Quinn69, Coding Jesus.
This
Here we
goes
go.
beyond simply liking code better. What I have on screen is objectively better because it makes it harder for you and others to make.
Yeah, I was saying earlier, Sprungus, that like his gaming design philosophy seems terrible. It seems like maybe he had some idea. Obviously, he knows some words and some lingo and blah, 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 enough to pass. But he doesn't know anything about structure of game design. It's like watching a Factorio player who doesn't have these certain philosophies, like having a main bus to move resources down, or having his factories be tile, like copy and pasteable or expandable. And those are like the main philosophies I go for in my base. Like I even out like a whole lot of space and structure, and in my mind I like generally picture how this is going to play out on a wide scale, and then the majority of the game is me getting down into the nitty gritty and like making the little builds work. It's like Pirate Software doesn't have that generalized view of it at all, but he spent his time, instead of developing that, developing like a way to be like, hey, like to someone who has no idea what they're looking at, wouldn't it look cool for me to have like an array of alarms? And wouldn't it be cool for me to have like this big line of like this with like all this cool green stuff? Whereas this is just shit. This is just so shit, and essentially makes his game unfinishable. Like you can't, this won't be possible for a human to turn this into a proper game, is what it sounds like it's getting to. You need a whole new human to come in and clean all this up. You can't keep going this way. It's becoming more and more insane, like a ball of yarn.
else in code and go back to that line that you like to reference the.
I wing my, yeah. I spent like 2,000 hours just winging my shit in Factorio before I really was like interested in picking up the design philosophy. You know who was a really fun? Me and Dung Devil played a 2-player game of Factorio, and watching his big brain inherently want to solve problems that will save him time later, and just watching that come naturally, and him not really having the Dunning-Kruger effect or the Dunning-Kruger effect is super fun to like be someone like me who has 2,000 hours of Factorio and he has 0, and he comes in and he just has all this natural ability, whereas like with very little guidance he is like off running, and his input into what he thinks I should be doing and what he wants us to do like together in the build is like insightful, creative, and powerful. It's really sick. To be fair though, he does want to have like cool trains, and he does want to have like he wants, there's some things like it's like when he plays Oxygen Not Included, he hates the way that the oxygen pressure operates, which is true because it doesn't operate like it would in real life. So I'm just saying that like he might like or not like the game. Doesn't mean he likes the game just because he's like naturally good at it, right? When they played 300, 400 hours, it's a pretty fun game. Me and Two Legs were hanging out in the Discord yesterday, and Two Legs was saying he enjoyed like speedrunning it. I think he got standard Factorio down to 8.5 hours. No, wait, he must have been way further. He was just talking me through. I used to do about 40-minute speedruns of Factorio standard. After I did my 1,000 hour, I played like 1,000 hours of Factorio in like 7 months. So I was like addicted by that point. It was hard to like wean off. I was definitely done with it. I was like, fuck this. But I didn't want to just step back off of it. So I just would like start new games and just play 40 minutes and see how far I could get. And I could get like the first 2 sciences, and then I'll be like working on the third and stuff. And it turns out Two Legs, who hangs out here, he practiced doing that the whole way through. I wouldn't beat the game. In 40 minutes I could get I would see how far I could get in 40 minutes, you know what I'm saying? I think the world record for it is like 40 minutes though. There are people who can beat Factorio that quickly. Those people just have really perfectly planned out blueprints, and their main thing is like it is very complicated. They are doing hundreds and hundreds of steps that they have perfectly memorized, but like they're not designing the base. They are like slapping the base down and then iterating on top of it and on top of it again, and trying to get bots and trying to plug in resources, and then making sure those resources are being properly balanced as the base operates. And those dudes will do it in like 4 hours. And one of the craziest things though is like space exploration is between 600 to 1,000 hours. If you're a really good player, you can beat it in like 500, 600 hours. And there's a dude who speedran that shit in 9 hours. So he woke up, started playing Space Age, and beat it that day. And that shit is mind-blowing. Like, he must have really spent thousands of hours designing the blueprints and the attack strategy. Because I figured a speedrun for that would be like 100 hours. But this dude does it in 9. It's fucking crazy. The speedruns for Space Age obviously isn't quite as hard as space exploration, and also not as like lengthy. Space exploration has times where like it's just about getting a lot of resources, and that's really frustrating. Like in space exploration, there's like these humps where the hump is literally like, hey, you just have to research 15 tiers of spaceship power, because the tech tree is different from Space Age. And so over that time, to get that kind of tech, you've developed like 30, 40 different kinds of tech, because there's so much tech in space exploration. And then one of these techs requires like a super rare resource from across the other side of the universe. So like you're just like aggressively like shipping stuff from whole different star systems. Whereas Space Age is just you're in one star system with 5 planets, and all those planets like work off each other and are like can be somewhat independent. Gleba, definitely not so independent. My current Factorio game plan is to build up Now V and Volcanus to be strong enough to very quickly, basically to have the strength to build miniature bases. And then I'm going to get Volcanus and Now V to be strong enough to pump out spaceships and pump out essentially enough resources to build an entire base. And then I'm going to get Volcanus and Now V to pump an entire base over to Gleba, and then Gleba can just be slapped down with a base, because I don't want to slowly build Gleba up using resources from Gleba. I just want Gleba to, as quickly as possible, be an independent base that can defend itself from the biters, or whatever those fucking Gleba stompers are, who have solid 100% reliable power supply with backup power supply as well. and to be totally, yeah, like Glibber is such a fucking nightmare, bro. There's no way I'm just leaving my dude. I spent like 30, 40 hours on Glibber and then left after I got a bunch of science. And I have bases on every planet in Factorio except for Aquilo. And my Glibber base is completely destroyed and barely operating and just like fucked. And it's so sad looking back at like that 30 hours as like destroyed. And over those 30 hours, my philosophy was to know that that base would be destroyed, to know that I just had to hold out to get just enough science. And I did it, but it was harder than I thought it would be. Even though I like took the precautions of being like, oh, I'm gonna make this easier on myself, and like we'll make a sacrifice now to like be better later. But the sacrifice was worse than I thought it would be, and it was harder than I thought it would be. And now going back to Clever, I'm like, fuck, dude. But at least I've like had some experience there, where I now know not to like go to Glibber and just think I can treat it like another planet. Whereas like going to Volcanus, or like Nalvi, like when you spawn on Nalvi, you don't have anything, right? And that's totally fine. That's just how Factorio's played. Spawning on Glibber and not having anything is not worth it. You want to have solid supply lines bringing you stone, coal, buildings. Just have a ship bring you a nuclear power plant. Have a ship bring you bullets and everything. Water. Maybe not water, but I think I need to bring a lot of dirt. I just need to bring a lot of everything, and then the only thing I want to produce on Glibber is like seeds, and then I'll use the seeds to make farms, and then I'll just drop walls, and I'll drop a nuclear power plant, and I'll design like a bus that'll be feeding spoiled resources. I'm going to try to have Glibber have like excessive amounts of production, and it'll have a bunch of that production being burnt off, which will be providing power. And then if that power runs out, I'm going to have a nuclear power plant to like back it up so that it kickstarts itself whenever it needs to. So it'll be automated. And I honestly think that is like the baseline of what you need. It's just like this stable as fuck little base, because Glibber is a fucking nightmare, bro. The enemies are like big and crazy. I know the worms on Volcanus are big and crazy, but you can totally predict what they're going to do. You just fight them if you want, or you don't fight them if you don't want. You don't even have to predict. You can just not get into a fight. And you just don't have to enter the worms territory. Whereas with Glibber, like, and especially with my seed on Glibber, I don't know if it's all like this, but I am limited for space. That is my most space-limited planet. Fulgora is the trash planet, and it's like little islands. You just don't have to enter the worms territory. Whereas you would think Fulgora would be the worst one, because it's just little islands in a sea of oil. But nah, bro. Glibber has cocked me. Oh shit, avoiding the puddle is live. Playing Resident Evil. Man, everyone loves Resident Evil.
This type of game or that type of game. It's a clone, but none of them are quite.
He is playing Resident Evil 1. This game does look fun.
Enough to try out. They all look kind of like shit. Holy shit! I forgot about that! That scared the shit out of me, dude.
I love him.
The event in. So you're going to constantly need to be jumping.
The Factorio rant came out of nowhere every time.
Between files, forgetting, potentially mistyping, and to know how this game is designed to understand that whatever he's doing here is not optimal. I also don't need to recommend the most optimal data structure, because literally anything would be better than this. Another thing that's really, really weird is that he's using these numbers to represent people, and now everywhere he writes the number 1 and when it represents a person, he needs to remember that it's Shelly, which is presumably a game character.
Weird.
Imagine removing all these comments. Would you, as a newly added game developer...
Yeah, it's a great point. Like, why is it say... Why is the 1 not just written Shelly?
...to his game project have any idea that 1 is Shelly?
He's such a
You
dicky.
would have no idea. This would never ever be allowed in a production repository, and I've been hinting, it's below what you'd expect of a bottom tier intern. One way to improve this is to write case and then switch on an enumeration. So case character Shelly. That is way, way better to whatever he has here. Another example is at 159.
Wait, so what language is this? CSS switch. No, sorry, it's C++ or C++. Use a switch statement to select one of many blocks of code. So is it like an if statement or a else statement? What is the Python equivalent of a switch statement? Python did not traditionally have a direct switch statement like some other programming language. However, with the introduction of match case statements in Python 3.10, so now we have match case. Okay, I've never used this before. I haven't been taught about it. Okay, here we go. But I use these, which is what it sounded like. If else or elifs. An elif is just an else and an if. If that doesn't make sense immediately, that's what that is. So you say if the value is 1, else do this. If the value is 1, print this. Otherwise, do this. Or if, or elif, value is something different to 1, do this. And then dictionary mapping. Dictionaries can be used to map values to functions or direct results, which can be cleaner for simple lookups. I'm a little bit confused. Actions equal dictionary, and the dictionary has two items called case 1, case 2, with values case 1 and case 2. Then action function, and then print action function. Action function gets value default case, and then default case is this. Case 1, case 2, value. So it would print here with case 1, it would print. Why would it say case 3 here? Process value case 1, it would print value, which would be case 1, which would print action for case 1, and then it would print default case. Is this just dog shit because it's AI? Or am I just not smart or educated enough to really know exactly how this would play out logically with code? You know what, I'm going to chase this rabbit hole and actually copy and paste this into my IDE. At least I guessed right that the switch statement is just an if statement. Okay, yeah, it's just doing what I thought it would. Default action. Okay.
More magic numbers, 32. What does message 32 mean? What does message 65 mean? What does message 97 mean? And what are these dialogue options 2, 5, 6, 0? This is a culmination of my past couple of comments, all in one steaming pile of. Surprisingly, that is all the code that I can find in these game developer streams.
This is the game that I work on. It's called Hardbound. Now understand something. Before I send you this link, do not buy my game.
Part 1, this is part 3. Is it an hour long? No, it's 25 minutes. This guy's
A bit of a
making
note
some
before we
shit.
continue. Most of Jason's hacking claims are mainly stories, with him being the only source of truth for a lot of them. So for most of this video, I'll just be explaining and teaching about the terms used and how these things generally go, instead of making judgments like the previous 2 parts. Well, maybe a few minor judgments. Anyways, with that out of the way, let's start going through it. Let's start by bringing up the old VX Underground tweet that Jason responded to, and recheck his YouTube short on his experience while he was at Blizzard.
I was one of the guys sitting there pulling down every bot that worked for every MMO that we worked on, everything at Blizzard, grabbed every single one of those, pulled it out into assembly, grabbed the code key from it, removed the polymorphic, found a way to fit it into Warden.
Okay, so from this clip, we got a lot of stuff to go over and cover. First, Jason worked on anti-cheat at Blizzard, and he dealt with bots. Plus, he did reverse engineering on the bots too, based on his comments. He also worked with Warden, which was Blizzard's anti-cheating tool that was directly integrated into games like World of Warcraft. The way Warden worked was, while you were playing the game, Warden would be running and using native API function calls from your system to collect data on your computer. This would include things such as what programs you had open while playing the game. It would hash data it collected and periodically would send it up to Blizzard servers, where they would try to determine if you were running any known cheating programs on your system while playing the game. It also has some malware detection built into it too.
Oh yeah, what's up,
it
Troy?
could detect stuff like keyloggers and warn you if your system had been.
Troy Gavoni, what's up, dude? Troy, I'm famous now. Look, I got like 50 subs. I'm chilling out. We're just reacting. I'm a coder. I'm Crisp the coder. How are you doing, Troy the gymnast? What's up? Welcome to Crisp Nation.
affected. It probably has a lot more functionality and abilities, but we'll need real Blizzard employees to talk about those details. Back to the short comments. Jason also pulled down tons of bots, pulled them all out into assembly, grabbed their code cave, removed the polymorphic, and then fit all this back into Warden somehow. Now, the issue with this clip is, while all these terms make sense on their own kind of, together this ends up sounding like weird nonsense he made up. This is why the VX Underground Twitter account is calling Jason out in the tweet. Also, for anyone that doesn't know what VX Underground is, it's a site that possibly holds the world's largest public collection of malware source code, samples, and papers. This is an incredibly popular site that many real hackers and security researchers use to find, study, and explore viruses. Plus, the people running the Twitter account...
This was validating, because earlier when he was just like, Undertale has like all of the dialogue from the entire game in one switch case file with hundreds of thousands of cases. And I went and Googled with you guys like what a case is. It doesn't make sense to say hundreds of thousands of cases. Did he mean characters? And it also says if it's all in one switch statement inside an object, that just doesn't make sense. Like, I'm not sure. It was very strange.
Of VX Underground are almost all going to be people within the field that actually really know their stuff.
It doesn't make sense in the sense that, like, I don't think he's describing something that is possible, so therefore that probably isn't how Undertale is actually built.
Now, let's go and explore what the code cave
Exactly.
means.
Not exactly.
From the wiki link Jason has posted as a response. If we look at the opening line on the wiki link, it basically says it refers to a section of unused bytes inside a process memory. So what this means is when we have a program active, we want to check and see if there's basically an empty continuous block of memory within it. If we manage to find an empty section, we can directly modify it with the debugger and add some new instructions to the program's execution. The advantages for this approach are the modifications are quick and easy to include, and you just need the application itself to check for this. None of the original source code is required. The downsides are, in many cases, this will result in a modified executable, which can cause the program to crash or malfunction depending on what was done. And the biggest issue, the amount of empty space you'll have to work with is going to be incredibly limited, meaning how much ad hoc stuff you can add here is going to be extremely small. Normally, you'd never use CodeCave to try and do a complex hack or add program behavior inside it. If you were searching and trying to use a CodeCave, you'd use the CodeCave area to try and find a way to call a separate DLL file where you'd have your actual hack or bot code logic located in for this context. And the CodeCave would just act as the entry point for this DLL injection. Also, let me explain what a dynamic link library or DLL file is too. Just like how you have an executable that's filled with compiled code that your system can run directly, DLL files also include compiled code. The major difference is DLLs are a separate file and they can be used by multiple other applications. For example, the code to create a window on the Windows operating system exists in a DLL file and other programs use it. Another big thing is, like the name implies with dynamic, the code inside a DLL can change, and the main program the next time it uses DLL will run that new code. Back to the code cave. I was also curious where the term code cave is normally used, since this is a pretty unusual and not often used hacking term. From what I found, it seems to be incredibly popular within the cheat engine user-based circles. For those that don't know what cheat engine is, it's a program that allows you to view an active game's memory and modify the memory values directly. So let's say you were playing a single player offline game and you opened up cheat engine. You could do some simple stuff like find your character's health memory value or level and set them to the max. You could also try doing the code cave stuff by finding that area of unused memory and try to create a custom hack there. The hack would be fairly limited and simple due to size constraints though. Think something like a God mode toggle. Now, while cheat engine can help you screw around with single player offline games, it's not exactly a good tool to use with MMOs like World of Warcraft. The reason is, with offline games, all the logic, updates, and variables are only on your system. This is what we call client side. So if something is modified with cheat engine, there shouldn't be any big problems since there's nothing else that needs to verify these values and data besides the game itself on your system. With MMOs and online games, on the other hand, the setup in general being a very different story. MMOs have both a client side and a server side component to them. What this means is, while the client side can be the game executable, which will be responsible while it's running to handle stuff like drawing and rendering the game itself, the server will be where the actual logic and values are being executed, read, and set to a database. Meaning, if you make changes on your side in this case, then when those values are sent up to the server to update and save, they'll more than likely have lots of checks in place to prevent getting bogus values and to stop cheating. This is very basic when dealing with online requests. Pretty much all servers are built with the idea of never trusting anything a client sends to it, meaning all the values that are made up with cheat engine and sent should be checked and verified again on the server before proceeding within a well-built server application. So let's say someone tried to go from level 1 to level 99 in World of Warcraft. When the level up event event happens and the data is sent to the server will more than likely do something like the following. It will read the current database value that has your level, then it will check your level or the XP amount you currently have and the projected amount you've sent. Then it will probably have some safety and anti-cheating checks. For example, something like if you're leveling up multiple times in one sent data packet to the server, that's a pretty clear sign you're cheating and it could flag you and have you banned at this point. Another example, if you tried sending an insanely high EXP amount that should be impossible to get through legitimate means playing the game, the server might realize you're cheating and ban you, or they might have a safety check and cap the EXP value to something more normal and sane for the game. Regardless of what is actually happening within the server logic and what they have in place, the cheat engine approach wouldn't really work in most cases since the modified values aren't being used and saved directly on your system but on the Blizzard servers, which as I just explained will have its own numerous ways of checking and determining if these cheat value changes are actually valid or not. So if cheat engine isn't a good option for online games and MMOs, how do people cheat, make hacks, and bots for them then? Well, we're in luck. We don't have to guess or speculate, since at DEF CON itself, many famous WoW hackers are there as speakers and actually nicely explain all this stuff for us. Notably, a few good talks to check out are DEF CON 19, Hacking MMORPGs for Fun and Profit, DEF CON 15, Virtual World Real Hacking, and DEF CON 17, Subverting World of Warcraft. Also, a quick fun fact as part of the DEF CON 19 talk, Michael Donnelly is a co-guest speaker. For anyone who doesn't know who that is, he's the creator and owner of MDY Industries, and by extension the creator of Glider, one of the most famous and successful WoW bots. He was raking in around 4 million at his peak, and then he got sued by Blizzard and was made to pay 6 million in damages. Anyways, back to the type of hacks, bots, and methods used.
I didn't know what a code cave was until just now.
For WoW. We have a few major types to go over. First, we have the GUI-based macro systems. These are some of the easiest type of bots to make. Basically, you'll have a completely separate program viewing the WoW game window and looking at the various parts of the game screen. Depending on what pixel color your program sees at different spots, different actions will be performed by sending the keystrokes mimicking player behavior to your WoW client. So, for example, if you were grinding, you might have the bot casting an area effect spell every few seconds, and when your health and mana bars change color, the bot will know to use your potions to keep the character alive to continue making grinding possible. Another popular type of bot design is done through DLL injection. This was a hacking method I mentioned during the code cave explanation. This is another super convenient method and has few benefits. Since it's running with the game itself, it can have access to data structures and other important info from the game directly, allowing these type of bots to be a lot smarter and more sophisticated than the GUI macro ones. Next, we have the debugger based ones. These are less detectable than the other types technically, since with these you'd attach debugger and use breakpoints and remote process memory to control things within the game. Based on most of the talks and stories, this wasn't something that was really done or used, more so a method that existed that some experimented with. Also, a quick aside, back to Jason's grab the code cave comment, this debugger method is technically the closest to his code cave definition, but with the rest of his comments and description, this still doesn't sound quite right in his context. I'll explain more about this at the end. Anyways, back to the bot types. Then we have the client replacement types. These ones are huge amounts of work and generally aren't the first bot type anyone will make. Generally for this type, you already have a successful bot going and you know how much you can auto farm, sell, and by extension profit off of. So now you'd make a client replacement to maximize the amount of bots you can run on your computers or
Dude, this guy is actually just analyzing what you need to do to fuck around with Pirate Software. I mean, to fuck around with World of Warcraft, and then he's just going to be like, and also Pirate Software just doesn't know what the fuck he's saying, right? I don't even know what the fuck he's saying.
Confirmation from the DEF CON talks for this too. Jason says polymorphism can be described as polymorphic code. The problem is these are two completely separate concepts and terms. Polymorphism is a program term, and polymorphic code is a virus term. Let's start with the polymorphism explanation first. Let's say we're back in C++ land again, and we have a class called animal, and it has a function called talk. Now let's say we create two other animal classes based on the initial animal class. Let's say we have a dog class with a talk function that says woof, and a cat class with a talk function that says meow. Now let's say we have a list of cats and dogs. What we can do, since both classes are based on an animal, we can grow through them generically and call talk on each animal type of object in the list. Since each one will have their own unique talk function, the behavior of the program will change depending if the dog is saying woof or the cat is saying meow. Now, one thing to note, polymorphism will change the behavior a function has within the context of the code. It won't change the assembly structure of a program, since both talk functions will be compiled into assembly and be within the executable itself. Now, there is also such a thing as polymorphic code, or more specifically polymorphic viruses. Basically, some malware can change its own code by using a mutation engine to mutate itself. Basically, each copy of the virus will have its own unique key to decrypt its code payload in slightly different ways to make detection harder. For example, let's use basic math examples to show what I mean. Let's say we want to get the number 4 by using two numbers. We basically have infinite options. We can do 3 plus 1, 2 plus 2, 6 minus 2, 14 minus 10. All of these will result in 4, even if the expressions are different. The end result will be the same. This is basically what's happening with the polymorphic viruses. It's doing the same operations, but with slightly different semantics to make it harder to detect. Now, you might be asking, if the virus is still doing the same thing, why doesn't anti-cheat or antivirus manage to detect it? So I'll give a quick rundown of some simple methods antiviruses and anti-cheat use to detect threats. Most antivirus and anti-cheat tools will check for a few quick and basic things, like DID or name of an application. Another way these tools will detect malware is they have a huge database worth of assembly and script script blocks that are commonly used in malware. So when they're checking over a program and they detect a matching block of code to their database blocks, they can be pretty sure the program is malware. Okay, with all those explanations out of the way, let's go through Jason Short again piece by piece now.
I was one of the guys sitting there pulling down every bot that worked for every MMO that we worked on, everything at Blizzard, grabbed every single one of those, pulled it out into assembly.
Alright, so he managed to get his hands on the bot programs and was doing reverse engineering and trying to debug them directly in assembly. This makes sense so far, with the most likely bot types being the DLL injection ones again.
Grabbed the code key from it.
And we have a problem. The code key being used inside the bot would not matter at all. A code key's purpose is to inject or call other code inside the program. The bot makers don't need to hack their own bot program to run code. This doesn't make any sense at all. The code caves would exist inside the Blizzard game files, not inside the bots. Also, you wouldn't be grabbing a code cave from anything. If you have a debugger open and checking a program in memory, you're already in the area and tooling to look for the code cave. Again, you'd be looking for a small area of unused memory. There's nothing here to grab. He's using the term even in his own statement and context incorrectly. And even if you applied it to the correct contents of the Blizzard game files, it still wouldn't make any sense. So let's drop this and go to the next bit.
Remove the polymorphic.
Okay, let's be charitable and say these bots were all made similar to polymorphic viruses. They weren't, but whatever. If you're studying the bot, you'd probably find the obfuscation and check to see how it's decrypted. You wouldn't be removing the polymorphic in this case. If you're ripping out the assembly instructions from the program, you're basically just left with a copy of the bot program, empty and useless. There's really no situation where you as the researcher and anti-cheat guy would be required to do this. So in all contexts, this doesn't make any sense either. Let's go back and finish up the clip now.
Found a way to fit it into Warden.
Okay, now how do you fit this into an anti-cheat tool like Warden? Since it works similar to an antivirus, you probably want to copy the common code block patterns you see in the bot into Warden. You'd also want to add other simple detection methods to Warden, like the name of the program or signatures related to it. You wouldn't need to remove the polymorphic, you just copied over parts of it and saved the instructions into the Warden database. So in the future, you could try and detect some users of this specific bot. If we're being charitable, we could say Jason misspoke multiple times in a row in that sentence, and he wanted to say something like the following. We got our hands on a lot of bot programs, and most of them were of the DLL injection type, with the injection method used being exploiting the Blizzard game files directly. The bot makers were smart and added polymorphic payloads to make detection difficult, but we managed to find unique enough patterns to add to Warden to make detection of this bot type possible. Do I think he knew this is what he was trying to say? Well, I think it's pretty clear if you watched my previous videos where I explain how poor his coding abilities are and understanding, or if you watched any of his multiple puzzle game streams where you see him cheating constantly. I think you won't be surprised when I say
what? I've seen him cheat at Blueprints. I've seen him cheat at the, I don't know. Oh, this is Overworld or whatever. I didn't know he played The Witness. But did I know I played The Witness? Is that why I played The Witness? Because I knew that he cheated at The Witness. Pirate Software cheats. Yeah, The Witness. Let's have a look. Let's have a quick squiz. Pirate Software plays The Witness. This game was a real mindfuck. I bet he cheats his ass off.
God, this is so complicated this way.
This game was exhausting, dude.
This one doesn't feel like it's like perfectly aligned.
I can't imagine him not cheating.
Yeah.
I can't imagine anyone with his kind of spine ever thinking this game was actually worth playing.
So if we do up and down and around this way and then like this and then around like that and then like this. And
Oh, look, he's solving it in such a weird way. Yeah, why don't you solve it while you're standing
that's
here,
what
buddy?
it looks like it's trying to get me to do.
You don't understand, do you?
Maybe this one's wrong. Maybe it's a different one.
The roots are meant to be cutting off parts of the thing. This was a particularly hard part. The whole
Say
game is
hell
fucking
no.
particularly
And I
hard.
assume he had no clue what he was trying to say either. What I think is likely, he was just tossing around hacking terms he's probably heard thrown around by the actual devs working on Warden anti-cheat during his time at Blizzard. Moving on to another topic, let's leave the polymorphic and code cave stuff behind us fully, and let's move to another clip everyone has been asking me to review, his next hero hackerman story of defeating an evil rogue hacker using a stingray.
I turned in a guy to the FBI when I was at DEF CON 24, I think it was. He walked into the room at the lost room. That was the year that I had the key. And he walked into the room and he's like, I need to put this device plugged into the wall under there. And I was like, you ain't doing that, man. And he goes, lost set. I couldn't. I was like, all right, fine. Go plug it in. And he plugged it in, put it under the couch. The moment he left the room, I unplugged it, pulled it apart. And it was, you ever heard of a stingray? So this guy tried to set one of these up in an environment with tens of thousands of people on a little thing about this big. In front of me, yeah. It's great. Really
Huh,
smart.
yeah, I
He had
wonder
done
if-
this in a number of locations. The other 2 devices that he had put out had actually been out and deployed, which was a security risk.
Jesus.
I took the device immediately, dumped all the information off of it. I actually looked at it. It had 4 screws on one side and 3 on the other side, so I knew which side was the access point that he was accessing because he had dropped a screw, which was
The hype man being like, "Oh Jesus, oh no, yo, stop watching your back." I got my Rio Fisto out, Mister Watching Your Back, so we're just trying to get back into the flow of like chilling out. And I haven't done coding today or even for a while, but we're looking at Pirate Software's bad coding. Get back in the flow. Yeah, it's gonna take me a little bit of time to reset back into the flow and maybe think more about like I kind of need to get some more money and stuff, so I might get like a real job soon or something, unless of course the streaming picks up. um but regardless, I'm gonna think about like doing like replanning my day a little bit, where like I want to do the coding for sure. I want to maybe have like a day of like real life work, and I want to have editing and streaming to be 2 separate events that are both super important to like work off each other, and just have a lot more fun with the coding because with the streaming, sorry, because the past months it's been a lot of either like too much coding, or the past like month or 6 weeks it's been like the Rio Festo, which has been a miserable time. Would you do YouTube? Yeah, yeah. Basically, I would want to spend like when I'm talking about getting the editing more up to date, I would spend like 4 hours, maybe max, 4 or 5 hours maximum streaming, and then I would end the stream and then edit the stream to put on YouTube straight away. Like I would maybe pump out 2 shorts and a little video like every day, and then that'll help me plan out the stream itself because I'll be like, like when the stream's done, how do I want that to appear as a YouTube video? I'm like, well, it could just be like a 40-minute gameplay of He Is Coming, which is a game with a great name. A game with a great name. Or The King Is Watching, or Rise Against the Storm. Like, do I put out a Rise Against the Storm video today, or this or that? Or maybe it's just like a 40-minute run as my YouTube video, and I can just like cut out all of the silence and make it like a cohesive flowing thing, right? Like I enjoy editing. I enjoyed editing the Rio Festo, and I enjoyed editing the Cyclone video as well, and like I thought the Cyclone one came out really nice. So I'd like to like work on that on the future. Plus I know it's like really good for the channel to like help it grow and stuff. Just having a bit more fun on stream. More than likely, I'll probably just still do the radio station and the coding while I'm doing the coding. And the main challenge is like how to stay productive with the coding now that I'm coming to the last like third or quarter of my course. But yeah, your editing is going pretty good for the yeah. Dude, I got so many compliments on the Festo. I think it's like people who want to like show support are like, I don't really know what happened with you guys or what's going on, and there's so much info, but like, man, the editing in that made it watchable. Like I could just zone out and just like be like, tee hee. My voice is so like humming, and I'm not like I don't have like an amazing voice for video essays. I could get better at it.
Go dox and harass Chris Lettuce and go kill him.
Thank you, watching your back. Have you not always been a Twitch follower? How are you? Are you just going on and off right now? It's always good to find a balance. It is, and it's definitely good to be back doing crisp community stuff rather than Rhea. When Rhea was my girlfriend, I feel like I was staying up late talking to her, and it was taking away from the stream. And then the past 6 weeks have been, all about this sort of like personal satisfaction of working on her thing, which isn't really like work. Good luck to her though. I hope she like finds it in her heart not to hate me for the things that I never did to her. It kind of sucks that she hates me, but like Tried to be good to her for a long time.
Was thankful because things like this could be trapped. You know, there's all kinds of
You
crazy.
can do a lot of posts to make audio speech more cohesive and stable. You'd be surprised. But like, it needs to be like captivating, right? Like me being like, change it, like, whoa, blah, 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 blah. And then like if I watch like Turkey Tom or whatever, or like Imro, like Imro in real life speaks so much different to his YouTube videos. You know, his YouTube videos are like, how does he speak? He's like, and then the pedophile found a victim.
That people can do.
But yeah, you're
Opened
right.
Up on
about
the
it
other
being
side,
cohesive.
took out the SIM card that was in it, took out the memory card that was in that, popped the memory card in my machine to go look at the logs. The guy
Just
had
listening
it.
to some
I was like,
Pirate
oh,
Software
this is really
bullshit.
bad. Took all that, took it to the FBI contact, sat in a room for like 4 hours. They found the guy.
Yo, we got like 11 people here now. Let's go. Dude, the first hour of stream is always slow. Today it was like the first 2 hours, but it's been a while since I've been streaming, so it's good to be back. Welcome back, the regulars. It's good to see you all here. Boom, boom, boom. I noticed that for the Cameron. We were thinking about watching that. Queeman is going over it today. I'm not sure how long I want to do my stream today. Obviously, I want to give you guys the big streams, but I'm a little bit sleepy, and sometimes I'm like, I don't know. You know, like, what benefit do I really get out of doing a big stream today? I could put my focus on other things, like having a nap. I should be shilling right now.
Revealed
But I'm enjoying this, regardless. So I'm happy being here right
where the
now.
other devices were. They arrested
Don't even
him.
worry
That was
about
the
it.
end of it. And I think they gave me a challenge coin for that. I think I got a
Good to
an
be
FBI
here, Full
challenge
Hell.
coin for that one.
So Stingray was originally a specific device created by the Harris Corporation, which would intercept and eavesdrop on mobile phone traffic and location data. It was essentially a fake mobile tower, acting as an in-between the target mobile phone and the real service provider towers. This is what's considered a man-in-the-middle attack. These devices are in widespread use by law enforcement agencies across various countries, notably the USA, the UK, and Canada. These days, though, Stingray has become a generic name to describe these types of mobile phone intercept devices, and not just the original Harris unit. Now, there's a few holes in Jason's story surrounding this. First of all, he sounds unsure if he won an FBI challenge coin or not, which I think is a pretty big issue. My reason being is he constantly shows off his DEF CON badges and wins. Like going to his Potato Sack Twitter account, his pinned message is DEF CON badge wins. If we go to his main
Yeah, what is this? I didn't realize. This is interesting. If this guy is saying Thor is unsure of whether or not he won the coin, I just thought he always said he won the coin.
Pirate Software Twitter account, every time he gets criticized or questioned, he pulls out his DEF CON badges and wins. His LinkedIn also has all 3 badges included in his honors. His Reddit intro posts also have his DEF CON badge win. He shows them off multiple times on stream and posts about them multiple times per year. I'm not blaming or holding this against him. Feel free to be proud of the stuff you got. The issue I have is if he's willing to showcase his DEF CON badges and wins basically at a minimum of like 4 to 5 times per year, every single year, why has he never shown his FBI challenge coin? I even managed to find him showing off his Blizzard Battle.net coin, but nothing related to the FBI coin. Considering how much he loves to share his achievements in personal life, he would have shared or talked about the Stingray and the FBI challenge coin at some other point besides this one podcast clip. Next.
Oh, I thought the FBI coin was the DEF CON coin. It was like a whole different thing. I think I was a gold medalist once. I'm not quite sure. I may have got second or third in the world. I can't quite remember. Remember when you were first talking about doing some coding? It's kind of been crazy, bro. People think I've been obsessed with the Reofesto, and I like to point out, like, my coding obsession was way more hardcore than my Reofesto obsession. Even my blueprints obsession was on par with the Reofesto. Even my Pirate Software obsession has been pretty fucking solid, going on and on, but the coding is by far, even like, aside from my 1,000 hour Factorio gameplay, I've never like thrown myself into something as hard as I've probably thrown myself into the coding. And that's only, I definitely went harder on the coding. I'd play it until I was like way more exhausted, frustrated, and yada yada yada, just coding. The Factorio one is only more hardcore because it's just longer. It's just 7 months. Fuckloads of Factorio. It's only 24 hours in a day, you know? It's only so many hours in a day that you can fit into Factorio, which is fucking annoying, because I Took me 1,000 hours to beat that shit. It took me 1,100 hours, in fact, which pissed me off because I think I took like 100 hours longer than Destiny, and that was simply because they changed one of the like missions. One of the hurdles was like you have to get this much tech. You have to have this level of tech, sorry, to progress. Whereas on Destiny's one, there wasn't. That just didn't exist. So he just did the same challenge with less tech, which is like totally possible. You just design a better ship that goes faster with less. The tech they increased was how much floor plan your ship can have, and they were basically like, you can't unlock the next tech until you have level 15 ship floor plan space unlocked. And Destiny researched like 8 up to level 8, and then he just went and researched the next tech. When I went to go do that, they were like, requirement not met, get another 8 points in this tech. And I'm like, bro, that is like hundreds of thousands of ore shipped across the universe. And I was like, fine, I'll do it. But it took me 100 hours. It took me 100 fucking hours to do that one thing. Bro. I'm just baby raging right now. But dude, I've been talking about Factorio way too much this stream. Just the briefest mention of Factorio and I'm off. The coding has been sick though. I just saw something in Python that I haven't seen before though, which was cases, like a case claim or a case command or some stuff. I wonder if I'm going to learn that soon. There's still always more to learn and it's pretty cool, but I am in like the last quarter of my course, so coming up on day 75 out of 100, and I know those last 25 days are basically just building a portfolio, so I'm looking forward to it, and part of me wants to redo the whole course, but just speedrun it because I obviously won't be learning it this time. I'll just be doing the equations and doing the exercises. The blueprints was kind of wild. Part of me wants to get back into the blueprints sometimes. After having a big break, I'm kind of like, could be fun to get back into. There's like still some massive questions that I have and some massive like meta puzzles that I haven't solved, so it's a good game that it's like teasing me to come back in. Even though I beat it. I technically beat it like a long time ago, but technically beating it is like Blueprints does this thing where like for to have more mainstream appeal, your average person wants to play a puzzle game, but they don't want to feel stuck and like they are losing or lost. They want to feel like a satisfaction of beating the game. So what Blueprints has done is like added a meta quest, which is to like reach the final room, and you reach the final room, and that might take you 10 to 15 hours. If you get bad RNG or you're not very good at puzzle games, it might take you 30 hours, and it's like, wow, I made it. I reached that in about 7 hours and realized like, oh, there's more to go. And then I played the game for another 30 hours after ending the main quest and just have realized that like that is potentially like a fifth, that is like 20%, and that like the way more interesting questions come like after you technically beat the game. But I get that for like a lot of people who aren't into that sort of thing, those people reach that and be like, oh, I did it, I beat the game, and like it feels good and I feel like the man and that was a great game. Whereas like if you didn't give those people the win, those people would be like, this game fucking sucked. Like I fucking got to that fucking room and then like there was just like nothing there and it was bullshit. Which is true. Like there is nothing there and it's bullshit. But at least it tells you fucking won. You got that? You got 1,000 hours in Valheim? That's crazy. Valheim is a sick game. I played 10 hours of it or something. I hate that I have to give up time for sleep instead of playing Factorio. I used to play Factorio until I was like woozy. That was when I knew I had to go to sleep. It was a good rhythm. Oh, what a time. I had a girl who would sit with me the whole time. None of you guys know her, and I'm not naming who she is. But she sat with me through like that 1,000 hours and would just sit in VC like talking to me. You would love Shadows of Doubt. Let me have a look. Fuck, I kind of want to look at Fear and Hunger and Undertale code later on today. Oh, yeah. There's a Seth Centek on Shadows of Doubt, right? I probably would love it. Python was my first language. That's what makes it a good program, in my opinion. The mindset. If you ever interview for a job, tell this story. Wait, what story? Hold on. And why did you say exclamation mark kick? Let me rack my brain for the story. Is it the Factorio story? Or is it the Ria Festo story? People thought I was obsessed with this girl, but they should have seen how obsessed I was with learning coding, and also playing Blueprints, and also playing Factorio, and also playing, I don't know, about the puzzle. Oh, with the puzzle game, like the game design thing. And then Factorio and all of it, just the whole thing. Yeah, true. It does show like a pretty abstract level of thinking from me, right? Factorio is a really useful analogy for like coding and computer software. Learning like computer software and stuff, I've like, it's like been so useful having played so much Factorio. I always knew it would be, but I didn't know why. And just from like word of mouth and the vibe. You were obsessed about beating the puzzle? Yeah, true. I mean, I pushed real hard on learning the coding. I'm at a funny point now though where like I pushed so hard to learn so much coding that I didn't leave myself space. You know, like the best way to learn something is to spend like an hour or two learning it and then revisit it for an hour or two the next day. I didn't really do that. I would spend 4 hours learning it, and then 4 hours the next day learning something new, 4 hours the next day learning something new, 4 hours the next day something new. And I've done that for about 90 days. It's meant to be a 100-day course, but like, I'm not going to lie, some of the single days that are meant to be an hour long were 20 hours. So if you guys do the same course that I do, just be prepared that it's advertised poorly, it's advertised to sell, and it's advertised as an hour-a-day course. Literally, maybe 1 or 2 of those days are actually an hour-a-day long. Pretty much all of them are like 3 or 4 hours minimum, and some of them you will be plugging away at it for like 3 working days or 4 working days, like 3 or 4 full days of like really getting stuck in and trying to figure this out and learning it and this and that. And you're going to want to cheat. You're going to want to look up the answers or see like, oh, what do they just want me to do here? And that is going to be hard to resist because you're going to be thinking like, oh, this should have only taken me an hour and I've spent 5. But it's super important that you realize like, well, no, this is like a difficult thing for anyone to do, and learning it properly is important, and you're cheating yourself out of that satisfaction. So yeah, basically what I'm saying is the 100-day course was like, I've been doing it for more than 100 days, and it's been really difficult, but I've been attacking it like really aggressively, and I've learned so much, and I'm looking forward to, but also a little bit dreading going back and just running drills and like doing like exercises. I just need to do exercises and just get it like natural and flowing and thinking like and remembering everything I learned and then practicing it all. Because conceptually I understand it all, but in my mind, it's hard to like, it'll probably take me a wee while to remember like, oh, that was the thing I learned on day 35, and like, oh, and this is the thing on day 66, and like, this was the concept from like the second week, and like, oh yeah, I should use everything I learned and like list comprehension to then do with the if and statements, and then boom, 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 and I might as well use different objects and classes here, and then like, whoa, like, why don't I go use CSS, and then like here I might want to use I'm already forgetting what these things are called, APIs, and other times I might want to learn. And I mean, there's definitely things I'm forgetting right now, and I'm not done with the course yet, so there's still more concepts that I don't even know. Concepts are more important than the IDE. That's a interesting statement because another thing I think about, apart from like honing my craft and like repracticing the exercises, which I definitely need to do, I went and tried to time myself, and I went into a website where like me and other people like did the same thing at the same time, and I was way slower than all of them. But I'm like a super beginner, whereas I assume all of these people have more than one semester of coding under their belt, and anyway, apart from that, I wondered like about learning another language, just a little bit. I know it's not really something I'm not seriously thinking about learning another language. It's just like, could I? How easy would that be? Anyway, let's keep watching a little bit of coding stuff.
Next issue with the story
600,000 views on this is pretty
there's
sick.
no other record or people to corroborate the story. I couldn't find any mentions of a widespread mobile attack at DEF CON during any of the years he was present there. Lost, the owner of the room Jason was staying at while this happened, doesn't seem to have posted anything about it either. No other attendees mentioned there being any other Stingray devices noticed either. It's hard to imagine a tech conference.
Stream went offline for a while. Yeah, I noticed. It's been doing that on and off today, like quite a lot. And I don't know why. Kick is usually way more stable than Twitch. So if you want to head over to Kick, you might get a better feed. But Kick also did just die. The funny thing is my OBS and my internet isn't cutting out. Because I've got that right in front of me. I'm looking at the health the whole time. And I do know that we'll be splitting the VOD and making it annoying if I want to edit this and put it on YouTube though. So that's kind of yikes. Good to be back. Hello. I was just saying, I've learned a lot, and sometimes I think about, but I don't seriously think about learning another language. But like with the concepts I know, I feel like it wouldn't be too bad. I feel like it wouldn't be language. I back up, and it gave me more viewers, so that was cool.
Conference with more than thousands of people that are all largely tech literate and knowing to practice device safety, and no one besides Jason noticed someone trying to monitor their phones with the Stingray. It's just way too hard to believe. I'll cut this part short since beside the clip I couldn't find any other info tied to this. Given how often Jason lies and over exaggerates different stories, I'm inclined to say he's lying on this one too, since nothing about it seems true and there's absolutely nothing I can find to even suggest it might have happened. Moving to the next topic, we'll return to his time at Eagle Research Group, or as he referred to it, his government hacking. Now, if we refer back to his LinkedIn, we can see he did the following: penetration testing, working with sensitive networks, and develop custom tools. Now, we have a few clips to check out. First one.
My general wheelhouse control is physical access control systems, so breaking and entering, Wi-Fi related vulnerabilities, web related vulnerabilities, and social engineering. So those were my primaries when we were on those tasks.
Okay, so he did physical access controls, Wi-Fi network checks, and social engineering. Okay, that's slightly different from what he wrote, but that's fine. Let's check the second clip.
So your government is, dude, honestly, working for the government sucks ass. They pay more than God when you're a federal contractor, but holy shit, is it not fun. You ever published a CV? No, not at all, man. Like most pen testing, this is the saddest, shittiest truth. If you are a pen tester or a federal contractor pen tester, you are running scanners and you're bored out of your freaking mind. Like it is not engaging at all. There's very few times you're like, I get to do something cool today. It's usually like, oh, cool. I'm wearing a suit. I run a shitty scanner.
Yeah, I could probably answer a few more questions if you want to ask.
Put together a report. I go home. Yeah, it's 9.
I'll probably rant about Factorio and not really answer them, but like, go ahead.
99% writing reports. It is literally 99% writing. Yeah, it's not fun. I wish it was cool.
Okay, running scans to test for vulnerabilities and then writing reports, again, sounds fine. The only problem I have is, every single time I manage to find something about him explaining what kind of hacking he did, he changes his story and the things he was responsible for, but I digress. Anyways, let's talk about physical security hacking and testing for a tiny bit. Physical testing is actually pretty straightforward and direct. You're basically going to go around and check every fire exit or entrance or other possible entry point to see if any are open. Are there any points of entry that aren't guarded or locked? In fact, DEF CON has a couple of great talks on this exact topic. One of my favorite stories from these talks is how to defeat those glass office double doors you see at most modern office buildings, with the little keycard employee scanner next to it. Now, I'm sure most of you are thinking some advanced hacking techniques are needed, like figuring out how the keycard scanner works, then making a fake card with the right data on it, or something else that's like movie-esque. But nah, you want to know the real way you defeat those door security?
Oh, wait. Why is my stream dying over and over? It's not dying on Restream, it's not dying anywhere else, it's just sort of dying on Kick. I've got like 3 different ways to monitor like how good my stream should be coming through, and it should be fine.
You go and buy a cheap $1 spray air freshener or a perfume bottle.
Dude, I was going to edit all this out into like a cool little YouTube video. Now I'm not sure.
and you point it directly at the top of
I'll commit to doing it, but it's going to be lame if it's all in lots of little VODs.
where those doors meet, and you spray a tiny bit. Some office and door combos have a sensor at the top in case of a fire or other type of emergency. So by spraying a thick spray near the sensor will trip up and assume there's a fire and lock itself, letting you open the doors normally without a card, and in many cases, no alarms will go off. So you'd be in the clear to walk in like nothing happened. For network testing, there's too many tools to pick from, so I'll just give one quick and popular example, namely Nmap, which is a network scanner that can identify hosts, services, open ports on a network, devices, operating systems, and even some vulnerabilities directly. For social engineering, I already discussed this in part 1, but a quick refresher. It's basically pretending you're someone that's an authority or coworker, and you're trying to trick an actual employee with accessing credentials to either give you direct access to something or account details which you can later on use yourself. You might also be tasked with sending out internal phishing emails to check to see if the employees at the company you're targeting have enough training and security sense not to fall for obvious traps. And like I mentioned in the last clip, you're not just tasked with doing hacks or scans. A huge part of hacking work is writing detailed reports describing exactly what issues exist and how they will be used to gain access so they can be fixed or addressed in some way. I can believe Jason did all these tasks. Nothing here requires any crazy training or hacking or coding ability. Though his stories about it keep changing, especially after the recent drama started coming out. After it came out, he kept reducing and toning down what he did. When giving answers on his stream, how much was exaggeration, how much was lying, and was actually true, I have no clue. I'm not super inclined to believe his words, but there's at least nothing wrong with any of these statements here. Alright, last topic, we have Jason's famous Mr. Robot claims.
I don't like Mr. Robot because they took some information that they should not have taken from a write-up that I did on some puzzles that I solved at DEF CON, and then they put them into an episode of the show, and I found out about it. And the only source for that knowledge was my write-up. Don't do that. You'll always be bad. Do you want to know?
This is all bullshit, by the way. The Mr. Robot people worked with like the guy who actually did that stuff, and they were like all good with it.
What the solution?
He just sort of claims it was him, and he can't prove it was really him or his work, or and like no one cares.
For that was? Do you want to know what one of the solutions?
And he's kind of fucking over like the show and the people who did it, and like he's just shit talking a bunch of people and all of that for no good reason.
For that was? It was the Puzzle Master's personal cell phone number, to which he got thousands.
This did not happen exactly as he is telling it. It is the guy's cell phone number. It isn't his personal cell phone number, and it's not like a. And the guy was okay with it. The guy worked with the team. Like fuck.
Thousands of calls. Maybe don't put things in your episode if you don't know what it is. Idiots.
They 100% knew what it was because they removed and like edited part of it to make it fit the show more. Like, come on, man.
All right. So the reason I don't like Mr. Robot, this right here,
it's so contrived. Yeah. Now here he goes to try to explain it, but he explains this wrong as well.
Is my write-up for the DEF CON 22 badge challenge. Went viral as hell inside of the hacking communities. And now let's go to Mr. Robot's Twitter. Understand that this was the only place in the world that this was listed. Mr. Robot reposted this right here. That's that same string.
Okay, first of all, Jason's write-up.
It's also not the only place in the world. Apparently, this is listed in like 4 different places. At least, like people found like 3 or 4 different places.
Wasn't the only place they could have found the puzzle. Popular sites like Wire have it right in the center in an article. DEF CON itself still has it available too, and lots of other teams posted about it too. So no, Jason did.
Every other team who participated, not just him,
have the only write-up. There were multiple teams at DEF CON that solved the bad challenge, and they all had their own write-ups posted shortly thereafter. Here's a write-up from Elegant, and if we look just a tiny bit below, we can see he also included the pamphlet picture as well, plus the original number series and the decrypted letters portion. So no, by no definition was Jason's write-up the only one, or even the most viral and popular one. I even went and checked on the Wayback Machine to see how many notes his Tumblr write-up had on August 17th, 2014. This is 5 days after the original publication date. We can see there's 27 notes, not exactly crazy viral or anything. I then went and checked September 13th, 2016. This is 1 day before the Mr. Robot tweet, and at this date he had 150 notes. Not exactly viral or huge reach even after more than 2 years of this post being up. Plus, he was posting and sharing his write-up on Twitter and Reddit multiple times during these 2 years. Now, if we check roughly 2 weeks after the Mr. Robot tweet, we can see on September 26th, 2016, he has 162 notes, or roughly a 41% increase in notes after he piggybacked on the Mr. Robot tweet to drive traffic to his write-up. Next, let's look a bit closer at the original pamphlet code series. Since we know the puzzle creator is lost, we can cross out his signature at the end. We're left with a series of numbers ranging from 1 up to 25. What's that common thing we're all using to discuss all of this that's roughly 25 letters? I'm sure lots of you have probably guessed it's the English alphabet. We can do a simple number to letter conversion, and we can get the following string. Now, let's look at that Mr. Robot tweet again. It's the same thing without the lost handle. This was truly impossible to figure out. My sarcasm aside, this is step 1 of the puzzle, and I mean that step 1 literally. This is part of what Jason is claiming is his unique, only in his write-up knowledge that Mr. Robot stole. He's claiming Mr. Robot stole the puzzle starting line from his write-up. I honestly can't tell if he's being serious with this, or if this is actually just like a decade-long social engineering experiment plus a little trolling mixed in. Anyways, let's pull up Elegant.
Okay, that's a good way to put it. I was gonna say earlier, like I don't know how long he spent thinking about this lie. Crazy.
Walkthrough for the puzzle and see what they did from here. After they converted the numbers to letters, they did a rote 13 on it.
Sorry, I'm
Rote
fucking over
13 is
video
a simple
editing.
letter substitution cipher. Basically, the letters of A to M are moved 13 letters up, and the letters N to Z are moved 13 letters back. Then we get the following string. The parent pages will help you find your calling, but don't be duped. Cut down the woods, baby air dish. Lost. Okay, now there's a few clues in the string. Notably, parent pages at the start. If we search this up, we'd find the parent numbers Wikipedia page. Thankfully, we don't need to worry about any crazy math stuff, and we just need the function pfn results, which is the row of 3, 0, 2, 3, etc. Next, we need the second part of the string clue, the woods they be air dish. If we search up those words, we'd find the air dish woods numbers Wikipedia page. Again, we don't need to worry about the math behind this, we just need the first few air dish woods numbers, namely 16, 22, 34, 36, 46, and 56. The next part basically relies on a separate pamphlet that has additional numbers. Here's what the original DEF CON 1 looked like. Anyways, we just need to pull these numbers out that are vertical and horizontal. If we look at the number set, we can realize they're hex values and we can convert them to ASCII characters to get the following string. The last step needed to solve this is part of the clue, cut down the woods, they be air dish. So we'll remove those matches, which leaves us with 251, a secret exclamation mark, which was where the Mr. Robot DEF CON 22 Bad Challenge reference stops in the Mr. Robot episode. The elegant write-up continues for a fair bit more, but let's stop here since this was the end of the context we needed for the Mr. Robot claims. Seeing as we could solve the Mr. Robot tweet challenge using Elegant's write-up, it proves Jason write-up wasn't the only place that had this knowledge. Now, to some other important points, Mr. Robot has consultants with the tech stuff for the show. If we look at who's a consultant for the show, oh, Jeff Moss is a consultant for the show. For those of you who don't know who that is, he's known as Dark Tangent, and he's the founder of the DEF CON conference. So let me spell it out for everyone. The guy who founded DEF CON and knows what goes on at DEF CON is a consultant on Mr. Robot and decided to use a puzzle from DEF CON, his own conference, on the show. Anyways, another issue, Jason blamed Mr. Robot for sharing Lost's phone number. First of all, this phone number isn't Lost's actual personal phone number. Lost is the main puzzle creator for DEF CON since like 2022 and an actual hacker plus security engineer. There's no way as part of a simple puzzle he'd be releasing his own personal phone number as the place to call to get a clue for additional steps. Second, Lost was happy and honored that Mr. Robot included his puzzle as part of the show. And if we check Lost...
Just like I said, the guy already knew. I haven't watched this video, but I've watched like a bunch. I've like looked into all of this already, so I don't have too much to say on it. This is all totally correct. This guy's doing a great job in this video.
Instagram, we can even see he joined Mr. Robot at some point as an additional creative consultant. So clearly there's no bad blood between Mr. Robot, Lost, and the other DEF CON adjacent people. The entire beef and issues were Jason's own made up story. With that, let's wrap this part up. There's probably a lot more hacking stories I didn't find or touch on from Jason, but given how basically none of his stories stand up to scrutiny, it likely doesn't matter too much. Something else to note, ever since the second big wave of drama started, Jason has also gone and started changing his stories and toning down his claims. In fact, in one stream just a few days ago, straight from the horse's mouth, we have this.
What kind of dev work did you do at Blizzard? I didn't do any dev work at Blizzard. I've never said that I did. The internet has done some weird shit where they said like, oh, he said he's a dev for 20 years at Blizzard.
Seeing as how now he admits to never being a dev and never did dev work at Blizzard, I wonder how long we need to wait for this new confession saying he was never a hacker and we were all lying and putting words in his mouth. Truly insane behavior, dude.
True. True. I wonder. Pretty good, like part 3. Slop News Network. How long did he spend on each part? Like 2 weeks per part? Well, these parts are only 2 days apart. He really just like pumped those out. And then this third part is that we just watched. I'm assuming these are a lot more tight, and this one was just like dank information.
We continue.
This is what we just watched, right? Yeah, it is.
But I'm not talking about the gameplay. I'm not talking about the dialogue. I'm not talking about... Okay, you saw the title. But I'm not talking about the gameplay. I'm not talking about the dialogue. I'm not talking about the story. I'm talking about the way that the game was made. See, Toby Fox was not an incredible developer. He never claimed to be, he never wanted to be, but he still made one of the best-selling games of all time. Because the code of Undertale is filled with a bunch of interesting workarounds to problems and many failed attempts. You know how you have the option to either kill enemies or spare them? Well, if you decide to butcher them all, like a psychopath, which I'm sure you know is called the genocide route, you're eventually given the choice to erase the world. And when you do that, the game...
I thought this would be interesting, but she's like just dropping spoilers, so I don't want to know I don't want to know. I don't want to know. It's kind of lame. At least you're saying part instead of the end. Part 1, part 2, part 3. Yeah, that's why I don't want to spoil it watching your back. She just, you know, like dropped a whole bunch of stuff about the interesting and unique ways to play Undertale that sort of made it stand out from the crowd, as well as like it does have like tight script, cute animation, well-formed humor, and it knows what it is and it embraces it seriously, which is like a great game. Or makes it a great game. Yeah. I'm thinking about just cutting this stream off a little bit early today because I'm just warming back up into getting, you know, getting the flow going. Please stay for the raid, you know, and thanks for your guys' support just showing up. I didn't make any money today, but like I want to put out some YouTube videos, and you know, it's not like I deserve like fucking minimum wage or anything. But I'll be back tomorrow, and there's a solid chance I'll be back in like an hour or two after I'm done just making sure I do some of the things that I need to do, like editing and that. Noita? Nah, no Noita at the moment. Sorry, dude. I'm definitely not going to give up on Noita, and I'm definitely going to have streams where I'll be like, hey, we're going to play Noita for 8 hours, and I'm going to try and, you know, do something awesome. Like, we'll do the Sun Quest, you know, and stuff like that. I love the enthusiasm though. I feel like this is one of the only times you've ever been like Noita, and I've been like, nah, I can't. I'm gonna just quickly try to edit some stuff and then go do some other stuff and try to be like super productive and not spend like hours and hours like doing something. Yeah, go watch a Rec Dictator for a little bit. Hopefully we have enough people for the raid and she's impressed and likes us. New community. Say hi. And to my Twitch people. I'll see you guys later.